Da, 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 da. And we are hopefully live. Yes, we are. And good evening, folks. And welcome to another edition of LiteratureDevil and myself talking about, well, in this case, a video, I think it's the second attack video on LiteratureDevil. You are one popular fellow, sir.
Yeah, I think I finally made it to the big
I
leagues.
guess that means, well, we criticize all kinds of videos, so I guess those people are equally as important because we try to be as fair as possible to everyone, giving them an opportunity. I think we had Lava Chan in the chat last time. That was great. The problem is I don't want to bring in people that are actually attacking someone into the chat while we're going through their video. Maybe if they do someone generically or through some generic means like they're attacking or criticizing or embellishing something, then we'll go, okay, great. Well, we could bring them into the chat and analyze their video at the same time. But for the most part, not a good idea to start an online war of words with another gentleman when they have just finished the video. The video speaks for itself, and that's good enough for me. Of course,
this one's like an hour and 20 minutes long. It's just, it's pretty good. It's scrumptious and delicious. It's like a Thanksgiving dinner.
it's special. Whereas the previous guy we analyzed was about art. He was kind of laid back and sort of nondescript. This gentleman by the name of, let me get his YouTube channel, is Vaush, I believe that's how you pronounce it, is rather animated and very expressive. He's a big channel, at least in comparison to mine, of course. So obviously he knows how to work a crowd, or at least how to express himself properly, which is always good because when we actually have something to work with, we can then properly analyze and critique. So
Not very expressive on Twitter though. Like I was tweeting again. I was tweeting at someone that I guess he linked the video to me, and then I just responded back, and then he actually came into the thread, and then I tweeted back at him, and then he kind of just quit after saying that. Well, how come you don't let your audience make up their own minds? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like how fragile is your mentality where you watch a video and you just can't make up your own mind after you watch it? I have to give you like some leeway where it's just in my opinion, or it's up to you to figure out the rest or something. Is like, do you listen to someone talking on the internet and immediately agree with them because they said that they're right? Is that how it works? And then he posted a Pepe picture, and then that was it.
oh, really? Well, that's different.
And I was going to take a drink every time I'm strawmanned in this video, but considering the thumbnail is mostly a bunch of Pepes with me next to it, and Pepe is a symbol I don't think I've ever used, that'd probably be a bad idea.
Yeah, when we tend to analyze something, we don't say, by the way, this person has this political ideology. You should do this. You should do the other one. We don't really care about the politics. We don't care about where they're coming from. We care about the argument and the evidence they present. So if we ever step over the line, I don't know why we ever would, because this is not a political channel. I have a political channel dedicated to making fun of all sorts of gaffes that people say, especially since it's election year in Canada, and there's, oh God, so many fun things to talk about in Canada nowadays that I leave all those other things away. So we just focus on the individual, what they say, and their evidence. That's all. So I think we're ready to get started, aren't we? Let's get going.
Nice. All right. Anyway, is very aware of the fact that he's not capable of doing. Nice. All right. Anyway, like fuck it, fuck this shit. Listen, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for fucking ages. Okay, this shit. This is not a new video from fucking 2018, so a little bit less than 1 year ago, but this is the most loaded question I've ever heard in my fucking life. Why are so many SJW characters Mary Sue's? God fucking help me. Guys, for those of you who don't know, outside the politics sphere, I really like media. I don't watch movies that often, but I like movies as a concept. I love me some video games, love me some anime, love me some comic.
So is he a political channel or a comics channel?
I think he just does media in general if he likes so many things. That's just totally fine, just like my channel. I also criticize media, so awesome.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, all right, keep going then.
media, and I like media analysis. And when reactionaries like the Gamergate crowd turn their eye towards media,
Is the Gamergate crowd a bunch of reactionaries? I thought it was just a Twitter
Really,
handle.
I thought the Gamergate crowd kind of died out years ago.
Yeah, it keeps being brought up by all these like Vox and all these other kinds of websites. Is this a thing still? I have no idea.
I think I have no idea. I think Gamergate is pretty much dead. It's just that it's so set still in the minds of people who are pro SJW and the communist. I don't know, the far left sort of leaning people. That they kind of just they bring it up all the time. Like if something goes wrong, they say, "Oh, this is Gamergate's doing," or they blame Gamergate for things, even though it's been dead. It's just something that affected them so immensely because it stopped their progressive power grab. Because until Gamergate happened, no one was really aware or standing up to the takeover of far leftist politics into the mainstream media. And then Gamergate happened, and then that just threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. So that's basically, I guess, it discard them for life. Or
I
something.
guess we could say that because Zoe Quinn has been making some rounds with getting hired by Marvel, as well as whatever she talked about today about some sexual abuser of hers from years ago, who's also another game developer. That might have constituted bringing Gamergate back from whatever hashtag it died from. I don't know, but that's all I've ever heard so far this year about Gamergate. So I apologize if we're going off topic here, but it was just a curious question.
media analysis, it typically ends up being sort of a proxy for their reactionary views. So typically when they say that a character is an SJW character, what they mean is that it's like a woman or a black person and they like do good. Or like maybe at one
A woman or a black person. See, they never think about Hispanics or Latinos or anything. It's, to them, you're either white or you're black. When they say minority, it's never Hispanic, it's never Asian, it's only black. And you never hear them crying about, oh, what if we have a Hispanic Superman? What if we had a Hispanic Batman? No. The only Hispanic people, the only people of Latin blood they really care about seems to be if you're illegal. That's about it.
Well, I'm still surprised that they consider, or you are considered a reactionary. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I mean, am I a reactionary for doing videos? I don't know. Maybe I am.
Like what is a definition of a reactionary? I mean, this analysis I did because everyone can notice this. I mean, a lot of people notice this, that there is a political takeover in media, and then that political takeover pumps out a certain archetype of character, and it kind of affects how different characters are portrayed based on what kind of skin color they have or what gender they are, or something like that. And it happens in comics, it happens in movies, and I think it happens in pretty much every facet of media these days that allow a far leftist progressive influence. Also, isn't he reacting to my video? Is that reactionary?
I guess we're all a big chain of reactionaries. I have no idea.
He's reacting to my video. That's
we're reacting to his reaction to your reaction.
How are we not going to be reactionary? Like how do you avoid that?
point they do something better than a white guy, you know? And Mary Sue means a character that's too good to be a good character. Like they're too flawless, they're too perfect, they don't experience.
Okay, if I didn't know that this video was about him watching my video, I would guess that he didn't watch my video. Because that's not what I say at all.
Yeah, you actually define the term. Yeah, you go into a large 2-minute detail of exactly what that is.
I specifically point that out and said most people think it's a character that is highly skilled.
Yes.
And all these things, but it's not that.
So
specifically, essentially,
he's already having an argument of semantics, which is one of the worst.
He's already strawmanning me.
Yeah, it's one of the worst things you can do, aside from various kinds of biases, where he says, no, my definition is the correct one because I said so, with offering no background, no context, no historical explanation, just, yes, Mary Sue is this. And you know what?
Then this guy comes on Twitter and has the audacity, after hearing him say this, that I didn't give my audience a chance to make up their own mind when he's starting off this video, literally a minute in, saying, this is what a Mary Sue is. No, there's no argument. This is what a Mary Sue is. This is what an SJW is. And this is what they mean when they use these terms.
Yes, and this term is one of the most nebulous ones I've seen for a pattern in writing, that it's very hard to define. So if you don't define it in some capacity, you're going to have a problem. So LiteratureDevil defines he has like, I think, 12 or so, a dozen or so criteria. and he has one. And it's like, okay, well, that's yours. Guess what? Other people can have different criteria, and they could apply it as they see instances of that Mary Sue character in media. That's just how it goes. And they're not all going to overlap. That's true, but they're still Mary Sues by one or two definitions. So you really have to argue for why a Mary Sue can be only one or two or three properties, or etc. So this is already a bad thing to do when starting an argument, because you're just saying, well, I think this. And you're like, so what? Go to tvtropes.org. Go to various online publications that talk about Mary Sue. Go to The Mary Sue, that feminist website. They don't shut up about women. There's lots of different categories. So
I think even TV Tropes, I haven't read TV Tropes in a while on their definition of Mary Sue, but I even think they have it to where it is defined as a character that is too good or maybe doesn't fit in their own universe or something like that.
Yeah, the one that's pretty good is very simple, is IDR Labs on YouTube. He has a video comparing Rey, Luke, and Anakin. And he has seven categories, or 7 reasons. Overpowered, unexplained power level, etc. And that's pretty broad. You got a few, and he compares them all. And all he does is show clips from the movies. That's it. He doesn't explain things, he just shows them.
I believe what he has just done is called poisoning the well, because he's already setting your mindset. So this is what I mean when I say Mary Sue. This is what I mean when I say SJW. And this is all before, so you have to know this. Keep this in mind while you watch this video.
Yeah, because as soon as you take any complex idea and you minimalize it to this one definition, then it becomes so broad. You say, well, obviously he's wrong. He's not following my definition. It's like there's more than one definition. So this is just a bad form of argument. And it's missing the forest for the trees. It's really sad to just not do 2 minutes of Googling. Just 2 minutes on Google. Just go, what's a Mary Sue? Oh, well, this person thinks it's this. This person thinks it's that. Wait, what's this website that has 30 definitions and 500 subcategories? Like there's the God Sue and the Press Sue and all these other Sues. You're like, what is going on? So it's really this strange phenomenon of writers who, I guess, write fan fiction and suddenly just insert themselves in a variety of categories that do a variety of horrible techniques for explaining the character as being believable or having a purpose in a story, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went over this on Twitter very recently. In fact, I think maybe an hour ago. But the Mary Sue term came from Paula Smith, who was an editor at a fanzine. I think she was an editor. And she was inspired to write her parody called The Trekkie's Tale because not only was it very popular for fan fiction to come in for Trek, the original Star Trek series, there was an influx of stories coming in from bored middle-aged housewives, and Paula Smith was inspired by their stories because they would write in stories that were all Mary Sues. They would all have, a very young female character who is beloved by everyone right off the bat. She's like an absurdly young lieutenant, all those Mary Sue-ish traits. Everyone loves her. She's always right. She never loses. When she dies, it's always a huge tragedy, etc. So that's why she created the Trekkie's Tale, because it was housewives who were making these stories centered around Mary Sue's. And she noticed that. So I guess, is Paula Smith a misogynist too, I guess?
Well, we're going to go through that entire part in your video because he goes through it. And it's sad, but we'll go through it, see what he says.
And struggle in a way that makes it difficult to sympathize with them. Let's see. What the fuck are we getting here? Come on. I double-clicked, and that minimized the window. Good opening.
What exactly is a Mary Sue? No, it's not that.
Oh. Oh, damn. This guy's, seen through all my moves. Right off the fucking bat, he's subverted.
I did. Apparently I did. He just explained what he thought a Mary Sue was, and I said, no, it's not that. So, without ever meeting him, I already know what he said was just BS. So I guess I was spot on there. So yeah, he's right about that.
Well, he didn't criticize your intro animation like the previous guy,
yeah.
who loves OpenGL and fast Fourier transforms. Like, ooh, it's so 1983. Okay, that's great.
Ever since social justice decided to disgrace the stage with its terrible everything, the term Mary Sue has become a common critique of SJW characters.
Oh no. Oh boy.
Sexist. Why might that be? Well, your standard Mary Sue typically possesses traits like being loved by everyone regardless of how they act. Anyone who actually does dislike them is evil. They're always right. Anyone who disagrees with them is always wrong. Their comebacks are always considered clever and witty.
This is not actually what Mary Sue means, like, at all. Oh god. Oh
Do I have to bring up?
no, this is going to be a fucking
Yes, I know. That's not what Mary Sue means. That's why I'm laying it out here. I said, typically, this is what a standard Mary Sue has. And then I say, well, it's not necessarily all this. This is like a misconception. I mean, has he watched the video? I say all of this. I list this out because these are things you would typically give a Mary Sue. These are things that people say, oh, what is a Mary Sue? And they say, oh, someone who's, everyone who dislikes them, everyone loves them. They're always right. They're never wrong. They're clever and witty, and they're smarter, they're faster and stronger than everyone else. And then that's why I list it out here because, oh yeah, this is what a Mary Sue is. And I say, well, not exactly, not necessarily. So I guess he's being reactionary. He's being reactionary right here because he has not. This is not my point. That this is I'm not giving my definition of Mary Sue right off the bat. This is what most people think a Mary Sue is.
Yeah, and then you actually have your definition later, which is like, thank you.
Yeah, this is how you construct, I don't know, an essay.
Cringe video. Oh, Jesus Christ. We've got everything. We've got the edgy, black masked dude with glowing red eyes.
Oh my God, sir, you edgy edgelord person, your black face.
Wait, honestly, I want to get to the part where he says in his suit. I'm really want him to say another guy in his suit. Does he say
in
that?
A gray suit, staring directly at us as a proxy?
Yes, yes.
How dare you in your fashion
man.
sense of an avatar, sir?
That makes me so happy. You know why I picked a suit on my avatar, right? Because for some reason, it has this weird control over these people that just snaps their mind in half like a twig. I don't know what it is about a suit that triggers them so much.
I think it's a war between Dolce and Gabbana and whomever they like. I don't know where they shop, but it must be something to do with the patriarchy, I'm assuming.
I'm more of a Jean Paul Gaultier guy.
Oh yeah, okay.
For the character. We've got the opening of, social justice is bad. We all know this, and everything it ever did is bad. Why are so many people calling social justice?
Social justice is bad. It has been bad since the French Revolution. It's just an avenue, a highway for tyranny, under the guise of being moral and just. So
I always read Hayek's interpretation as just I would say, an avenue for redistribution of wealth. But yeah, same thing.
Justice character's bad. Let's look into it. Oh, God. Okay, so this is not what a Mary Sue is in common.
I know it's not what a Mary Sue is. Thank you for pointing out what I'm about to point out.
I'm glad we're agreeing on this, but let's see if he actually pays attention.
Like parlance, like at all.
Common parlance of a difficult literary term. Okay, yeah, that's a common thing, sure. It's right up there with mens rea and actus reus and other law terms, sure.
This is like hardcore baiting the fucking question. Always clever and witty? Stronger, faster, smarter? They're always right? Not even fucking close. A Mary Sue character is usually a character who's so proficient or so like rooted in sort of narrative correctness. Like the way in which they act aligns perfectly with the themes of the story.
Oh my goodness. That's exactly what this list is. It's not these things. It's the fact that they're better than everyone else. It's like you just restated what I just stated, but in different words.
I'm very concerned with that definition of rooted in narrative correctness. That they reinstate. Yeah, they reinstate the theme, or they are the proponent of the theme. It's like, isn't that what a character or a protagonist is supposed to be doing? How is that a trait of a Mary Sue? I don't understand.
They're narratively correct.
I've never seen. I've been on TV tropes. I've researched that. I've never seen that definition.
I'm pretty sure he just made that term up.
Maybe. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe he has an example we could read about. That'd be great.
Oh, from the pattern so far, I doubt it, but I'll be very delighted if he does.
I want some Mary Sue examples, sir. Can you get some, please?
They don't really experience struggle. They're just sort of kind of very often meant to be sort of a proxy of like the right way to be. That's what a Mary...
Wow. They are a proxy of the right way. What does that even mean? Does that
What is
mean
this? What is this Nazi talk, sir?
is that like ethics in general? Is that like utilitarianism? Is that like is it the ethics within the story world? Like what is he talking about?
And also, no, he's not correct either. At least not according to my definition, which is that things just kind of bend around the character, and logic goes out the window. And for sort of like with Rey, she just does things that shouldn't be possible, like learn force powers out of the ether, so that because it's narratively convenient. I guess that would be a good example of what narrative correctness is. You know, they have to, because the narrative demands that they be free now, they're just free now. And that's exact. So we agree, actually, if that's his definition of narrative, if that's what he means by narrative correctness, then we agree on the definition of Mary Sue. Okay, that's great. This has been fun. This is a good stream. Good night, everyone.
We agree. Okay, let's go.
The Sue character is. That is not they're always right or unconditionally loved by everyone in the story. That's fucking ludicrous. In fact, very often Mary Sue characters will be despised.
I said this is a list of things that they likely are to have. Not that they have to have all of these, or really any of these, but they will likely have at least some of these. And he even agreed smarter, faster, stronger. They're always right. Because he just said they're going to be the right way to be or something, so that's always right.
Well, according to that definition, really, the original example of the Mary Sue is she is loved by everyone. Everyone mourns her death, so...
Yeah, and Paula Smith's Trekkie's Tale, which is the progenitor of the Mary Sue.
Yeah, so...
She is loved by everyone, etc., all of these things.
So Paula Smith is wrong? Like, what is he saying? Okay, let's just keep going. Maybe he'll explain himself.
By other characters in the story, because of how like perpetually correct they are, but it's framed in their favor rather than against the other characters.
Smarter than everyone, faster than everyone, and more powerful than everyone. They're the best at anything they do, even if they've never tried it before. They don't have flaws, or if they do, it's something small, like being clumsy, or the opposite, like being too pretty. Yes, that's real. Any of that starting to sound eerily familiar? You see this a lot in fan fiction.
Did you see that? Eerily Marvel?
The natural habitat of the Mary Sue is fan fiction. This...
I would hope so. It was like 300 font.
likely stems from an author wanting to place themselves in the world of their favorite series.
Oh my fucking god. 1.5 million views, by the way, on this. You do not have to try hard.
But not their real selves, with all the nasty human elements. Their ideal selves. The one with the great hair, the
oh, please get triggered by this. Please get triggered by this.
perfect looks, and the existent social skills. In 1974, a brilliant pair...
Oh, he didn't get triggered by it. I guess he's not really familiar with the Trumps. Okay, 1 point for him for not falling for that one.
Oh, we're gonna do another point tally like Lava Chen? Okay.
Lava Chen. He didn't get triggered by that one.
Clever man.
of your standard Mary Sue story was written by Paula Smith in her fan fiction masterpiece, A Trekkie's Tale, also known as the story that originated the term Mary Sue. The 70s was the decade when fan-written works were starting to hit mainstream popularity. There were even fan magazines where such works could be published, and at the time, one of the most popular shows to write fan fiction about was the original Star Trek. Paula Smith's story was published in one such fanzine called Menagerie.
Oh, is he Trekkie? Well, I like him a little bit more then. He has some redeeming qualities, it seems.
Trekkie's Tale stars a 15-year-old Lieutenant Mary Sue, making her a ludicrously young, super talented genius. Everyone loves her, so she gets to play hard to get with the most famous men in the Federation. She's half Vulcan, and by the end, she not only saves Kirk and Spock from certain doom, but single-handedly saves the entire Enterprise. And of course, she died.
So, like, we're having fun. We're, like, diving into the history here. I know how this story is going to go. Not this story, sorry, this video. Because at the beginning of this video, he was like, sound familiar with the Marvel thing at the bottom. I know we're going to bring this back to fucking, like, Rey with the Last Jedi. And I'm desperately wondering how he's going to try and tie this setup to his ascriptions of the character traits that he's going to accuse of being, like, SJW Mary Sue's.
Tragic.
That's like 1-to-1. Like it's pretty obvious. It's pretty simple. You're not pulling any punches. Like this is what it is, and here's Rey. Wow, They line up perfectly. How is that? Why is that? I don't know. Did you watch the movie? It seems pretty obvious.
So everyone can not only mourn her passing, but lament on what terrible a loss her death really was. But it was all just silly fan fiction until we got Wesley Crusher, who fans hated, and unfortunately who never died via bayonet stabbing. Basically, the simple mainstream definition is a character who is too perfect. But being powerful, liked, and good at things are more like indicators than actual evidence that the character you're looking at is a Mary Sue. After all, we have characters like Superman, who's loved by the people, talented, and absurdly powerful even by superhero standards, but is still one of the 3 banner characters for DC Comics. So, that leaves us with the question, if Superman, a character whose superpower is to have all the powers, can still be held in such high regard, what is it that really makes a Mary Sue?
Okay, so this is a like a false dichotomy right here. It is entirely possible, in fact, that Superman is a Mary Sue. In fact, I would make the argument that Superman is a Mary Sue. Can we all step on for a second? Can we all take a moment? Superman is fucking boring. We all know that, right?
What does your interest level in Superman have anything to do with him being a Mary Sue or not?
Exactly. Also, first of all, you know how long Superman has been out? He's been around for decades. Okay? He has been through a myriad of different writers. So yes, even statistically speaking, going by the numbers game, there have been instances where a writer would in fact drop the ball on Superman because he is admittedly a little tricky to write for. Because he's so powerful.
And let's remember that the first iteration of Superman before that, I think the 60s, where his alien heritage was explained, he was powered by the sun, etc. He was just a strong man. He was a guy who could jump over buildings. That's
why that what was it? That he can jump over buildings in a single bound. He couldn't fly at first. That was something that was added on later.
Yeah, and he's the prototypical superhero. So naturally, he's going to be this sort of Protheus or Prometheus for everything that's going to be about superheroes, at least during the 40s and 50s, and further up until the 80s, where people started doing all these crazy things with superheroes, or at least the 70s as well. So this is kind of like, he went through a heck of a lot of changes, a heck of a lot of redefinitions, whereas Ray, we saw 2 movies.
2 movies, and there's no real way for her to... at least cinematic-wise, there's no real way for her to be redeemed unless the 3rd one comes out and dramatically changes her character to such a degree that she's redeemed somehow. They're going to do some retcons or explain something. And it's J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Isn't he Mr. Mystery Box?
Yeah, and this we're talking about the nature of the medium. So obviously, comic books, you can do all sorts of crazy things. You can do different timelines. You can do your own reiteration of the character, non-canon work, etc. With movies, it's pretty much, that's it. You get one shot. They have 2 writers, 2 directors. That's about all you got. So if they screw that up, they retcon it, that's a bad thing.
I'm just going to go ahead and point. I do like this video better than Lava Chan's video. It has a little bit more substance as far as I'm concerned. And I give him a point for being a Trekkie.
Okay.
So
Like, literally, like, everyone fucking recognizes the fact that Superman is incredibly boring. He's unbelievably powerful. So there's a million fucking writers in any given comics, a movie, story. All of them are going to have different interpretations of these characters.
Except for Ray, who only has 2 in the same storyline.
There's no other things I can point to at the moment, or at least not too much, about Ray that's going to be dramatically different. I mean, you can see there's like barrel-chested, white-haired Superman, and then you have like contemporary Superman. Now you have like Injustice Superman. There's all kinds of Superman or Supermen, I guess. And you can even separate movie Superman from comic Superman because they seem kind of different. And then cartoon Superman,
TV Superman, there's all crazy.
Yeah, from Smallville to just the new Man of Steel Superman. And it's just all kinds of Superman. However, there's only like one iteration of Ray.
So we can bet, I agree. There's definitely some iterations of Superman that weren't written well and probably very Mary Sue-ness. That's true.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there was like a comic. I think it was Silver Age where he started coming up with weird powers to bend to the plot or something. That would be Superman being a Mary Sue. But there are more instances of him being well written, at least much more impactful instances of him being well written than him not being well written.
Well, no one really remembers Superman Red and Blue very much. So there's things that they tried, they experimented with and didn't go so well, so they removed it, and then they rebooted it. They rebooted the New 52, Earth 2, and all these other things. So it's not uncommon to do fun, crazy things. There's an entire category of DC Comics called Elseworlds, where they're just like, what if? Like in Marvel, they have the What If comics. Same thing. It's like, what can we do with this character? Let's find out if this happened, you know?
Which is great, so everyone can do their own little jerky fucking fan fiction shit. But Superman is not an interesting character.
Okay, he just admits they're doing fan fiction. Great. That's exactly where Mary Sue came from. It's bound to cross over. It is fan fiction, exactly.
Mary Sue was born from fan fiction. That's where it came from. Literally, that's where the character archetype came from, was fan fiction. It just happened to be published in a magazine. Also, what does it matter if he's boring? That's not... Even in the list, I listed that of Mary Sue traits that people commonly ascribe to Mary Sue's. Being boring isn't one of them. You can have a good character. You can have not necessarily a good character, but a character who isn't a Mary Sue be boring. It doesn't matter if you think he's boring.
Well, it's his opinion that Superman's boring, but it's still a point against him because, again, everyone loves the Mary Sue. So...
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Superman either, but for characters like Batman, I mean, you know this, but and everyone who's seen me probably or watched me knows this. But I prefer like the everyman, powerless, non-superpowered character like the Punisher, etc. So I'm not that big of a Superman fan myself, but facts are the facts.
In all the best stories with Superman in it, like The Dark Knight Rises or Kingdom Come, for example, he's usually not framed interesting in himself, but rather a force of nature that other characters have.
Okay, so he said Dark Knight Rises, right? That's Dark Knight Rises is the one... That's the movie. The movie? Dark Knight Rises?
I'm trying to figure out if there's Superman in that story. I think it is, yeah.
Dark Knight Rises. Just making sure I'm talking about the right one. Okay. Wait. Dark Knight Rises? I think he means Dark Knight Returns because Dark Knight Rises, Superman isn't in that. It's just the Batman movie. It's a third Nolan verse. So if he's talking about Dark Knight Returns, the Superman is in that. And it's Dark Knight Returns, by the way, is incredible. It's a great story. They should have done that storyline for Batman versus Superman instead of the tripe that they pulled out. But yeah. But the thing is, about that story, Superman is portrayed as, milquetoast and boring because he's a stooge for the government at that time. But then again, it was written by Frank Miller. Now, as much as I love Frank Miller, he does not like Superman at all. He is a Batman fanboy to the highest degree. So he is going to praise and put Batman up on a pedestal, and he's going to put Batman's greatest rival, Superman, as low as possible. He made Superman a stooge for the government. He doesn't ask questions in that story. He just does what the government tells him to do. Frank Miller is a biased source of information, story source, when you're considering Superman. So of course he's going to write Superman as boring and two-dimensional. He hates Superman, or at least he dislikes him. Also, isn't he a comic book guy? How's he not? I guess it's a common mistake. I'll let that slide. I mean, Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
That's all right. I know what he meant.
Have to contend with, because let's fucking what the fuck is Superman? So Superman is an incredibly handsome, confident, charismatic, tall, muscular, well-spoken, absurdly powerful alien entity that is by no means separated from humanity for his alien characteristics. He doesn't have any weird fucking tentacles or whatever. He's peachy fucking white.
He's an alien. He's an immigrant. He learns how to be an American. That's the core of Superman.
So what is this problem with him being white?
What's the big...
He's not allowed to be likable if he's white?
He is literally an illegal alien. So I don't... Yeah. What scale is that on the...
Would you prefer Superman speak like Cheech Marin?
I don't get it. Like, what's the big deal? He's an immigrant.
Illegal immigrants aren't a race. You can have white immigrants. You can have white illegal immigrants. He's the immigrant story as far as we can tell these days. It might have been different back then, but... Yeah,
we can go so far as like the traditional Exodus story from Judaism. We can go. I mean, it was written by a Jew anyway. I mean, just like, how far do you want to go with this? How do you define Superman? I always define him as being the guy who stands up for what's right and will give himself up. He will sacrifice himself up for anything without even
that's
thinking.
the story of Superman. That's why people like him, because he's not necessarily always right. Not everyone. He is adored by the people, but not everyone likes him, obviously. And some people like Batman. Batman doesn't necessarily always care for Superman, but Batman isn't portrayed as evil for doing so, at least not in most iterations. And Superman's whole story, at least how he's developed over time, isn't about him being powerful or just taking on bad guys, because that would be just boring and two-dimensional. His story is about doing the right thing when no one else can. He's kind of like Picard. You do the right thing when everyone else thinks doing the right thing in that situation is absurd. To go into the Trekkie roots here. Remember that episode with the crystalline entity in Star Trek Next Generation?
Oh, yeah.
Where that thing ate planets? He was like this weird giant alien that just sucked off all life on a planet like a meat from a bone. And people just assumed that Picard wanted to destroy that entity. And he just said, well, no. This thing is alive. It has every right to live its life out as we do. So we're just going to deter it or steer it away. So that's the same mentality as Superman. He's only when he is pushed to like the brink, when he's forced to bring out his most powerful abilities and bring out his full strength, does he become more violent? Does he even ever consider becoming like incredibly violent?
Yeah, he's always holding himself back. Yeah, exactly.
That is the story of Superman. His story is control, because he is absurdly powerful, and if he wants to fit in with human society, if he wants to have relationships, if he wants to be the hero that he wants to be, he has to learn control. He has to learn to limit his strength. He has to learn to keep his temper. He has to learn not to go over the edge, because the moment a man like Superman goes over the edge, he can easily go places that he can never morally recover from. That is his story. That is the story of Superman, and that's why I don't find Superman boring. I don't find him he's not my favorite, but I don't find him boring, especially if he's written well, or at least adequate.
I think Dark Knight Returns he's done as a pawn of the U.S. government at the time.
Yeah, that's basically his whole thing. And he's still good in that. Even Frank Miller wrote Superman as this moral Boy Scout. He is, even if the writer dislikes him or even hates him, Superman is still the guy you go to do the right thing. Because if Superman was this murderous, vindictive, evil person in The Dark Knight Returns, Batman would not have stood a chance. Superman could have just crushed him and killed him easily. Superman just held back. And that's how Batman was able to beat him in the end.
He's basically physically flawless. He's unbelievably strong.
Aside from that whole thing with kryptonite where he can die and magic and various other technologies like the red sun. Like, I mean, sure, he has weaknesses, but yeah, he's basically flawless.
He's basically flawless. It's not about him. His whole character isn't about physical perfection. It's not about physical challenges. It's about moral ones. Because that's what Superman can overcome pretty much any obstacle, because he's so strong.
It's very similar to the mentality of Captain America. Captain America is the guy to rely on in a moral quandary, or he knows what's right and what's wrong. You don't have to question Captain America the same way in most respects. There are lots of stories of Superman turning evil, but Superman is always the golden child, the Boy Scout. This is the guy who knows what's right from wrong, and that's never going to change. Mm-hmm. For the most part. Again, there are stories that are different. They mix up the character a bit here and there. It's totally fine.
I mean, he's been around for decades.
Exactly. Plus all those weird kryptonite rings, and the red kryptonite does this and this, and makes him go crazy, makes him lose his powers, etc. So
yeah, with red sun, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Wrong. He's stronger than like any other major character in the universe.
No, there's actually a list of there's all kinds of lists out there, of 10 other heroes stronger than Superman. Yeah, there are, I think, Golden Sun Superman. I can't remember, Superman 1000 or whatever, the line where he pretty much becomes a sun god.
Yeah.
There are stories like that where he's literally the most strongest thing. But classically, no, there are stronger characters. So
Or at least he's up there in the ranks. He's unbelievably kind and charitable. He's noble, hardworking, dedicated to his work and to his love life. He's a fucking flawless character. The only reason
That's the reason why he seems flawless, because his whole life, his whole set of characterization, it's about maintaining control, moral control, physical control, every type of control imaginable. That's what Superman has to constantly do from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep at night, because he has so much power, and his power can be used for anything.
yeah, and he has problems with. I remember the story in Young Justice, I think the animated series, where he discovers Connor is a clone of himself, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to address him. He doesn't know how to think of him as a son or as a friend. He just sort of avoids Connor. So he has a lot of problems once he gets addressed or addresses them directly, because he's used to just being the big strong guy who knows everything, and all of a sudden something personal happens, like Lois Lane or Lana Lang or Ma Kent or Connor. He's like, oh my God, what do I do? So there are stories out there, just as I'm sure there are stories of him out there that are making him a horribly written character, but of him being a human, him being a human being, have a human emotion, and being lost and confused like most other people. So he's not just this one-sided character. There's lots of dimensions. There's lots of writers, and you just have to read the comics. You have to listen to the animated movies and watch the shows. There are better versions of him out there. But that's the beauty of comics. You can do all these crazy things in comics and other media, but in Star Wars you get movies. So unless, of course, the EU comes back in some weird format, and then we have a second extended universe.
people don't consider him a Mary Sue is because he has so much fucking established canon in the background.
Yeah, that's because we have examples of him not being a Mary Sue, and we know where his powers come from. We know what makes him weak. And we know it's pretty obvious, dude. Like, what, you have to list everything that makes Superman Superman? We don't have to.
Yeah, if we had like a Anakin Skywalker from the original trilogy, Kid Skywalker, I still uphold it as a Mary Sue. But even if you consider adult Anakin Skywalker a Mary Sue, there is a plethora of other media out there, including animated series, especially the one produced by Genndy Tartakovsky, that portray him in a much better way, much less Mary Sue-ish, you could say. So if you have more media out there that's readily available, that's easily consumable, I don't have to go out of my way to read or watch, then the case could be made that maybe Ray isn't. But it would have to be something significant, something that's in the movies, because as far as most fans are concerned, at least the movie-going public is concerned, the main canon for Star Wars is basically centered around the movies.
Yeah, I haven't
something in the movies.
I haven't really seen too many comics or read them myself. I know they're out there of Ray doing stuff, but yeah, that is the primary source, and a movie should be able to exist on its own, whether it's written well or not. And unfortunately, we don't see that with the character of Ray.
You're mostly talking about Golden Silver Age Superman. You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to Bronze and Modern Age Superman. Flever, if you only knew that I wasn't a comic nerd. Ooh, but unfortunately for you, I am. No. Even in iterations where Superman's character flaws are played upon, they're fucking asinine. Usually the good stories that involve Superman's flaws as a character are him struggling with his inability to do enough to save everyone at all times.
Yeah, that's a big flaw of Superman, because he has this mentality. The part of his humanity is being it's his powers have given him you could say a bit of an ego, and that he believes that he can protect everyone, that he has the power to protect everyone. And that's a tragedy of Superman that gives him a powerful tragedy, because he wants to protect everyone. He feels that he should be able to protect everyone because he is in fact so powerful, but he can't. And he has to deal with that. He has to come to terms with that. And I do put in an example in a bit why I think that he isn't a Mary Sue, because they explore these aspects and these elements. They don't do any of that for Ray. She's just awesome.
She's like, well, how am I so powerful? We don't know. How could I do this? We don't know. She doesn't. No one knows.
No one knows. She's just awesome. At least Superman has an explanation, if not the easy explanation. It just being a superhero world, he gets more powerful from the radiation of the yellow sun. And I didn't know this guy was a comic book nerd because I didn't know about this guy until we made this video, and I didn't make this video for him.
Yeah, I guess he's talking to his fans. I'm not sure what's going on here. Yeah.
And I think I've gone on record. I am not a comic book nerd. I just research things for these videos. I am more into prose. But yeah, I guess it doesn't matter then.
Even though he can still do a tremendous amount at any given point. Like, he's not perfect enough. Additionally, he has...
What's wrong with that? He addresses his own powers. He says, I can do X, but I can't do X1. I can't do X2. Damn.
Yeah. That's doubt. That's self-doubt. His confidence is being shaken. All of his power in the face of his wants and the things that he needs, in the face of his unyielding set of moral justifications and his code of ethics, he is not powerful enough to live up to his own standards. That is a flaw because it pains him. It hurts. He can't face the fact that he can't. It's something that he can't face. It's kind of like a narcissist or someone that has some sort of delusion. They come to terms with the fact that they can't do the things that they thought themselves so capable of, and they have to accept that. Or they have to deny it, have to ignore the fact that they can't succeed.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, I remember in the Smallville series that there were so many episodes where it comes clear that Clark just can't love anyone. It never works out. There's always some crisis. I believe Lana Lang gets turned into Metallo at one point. It's like, whoa. So he's trying to kiss her, and he's literally in pain because the kryptonite is eating away at his lips. It's like, what the hell's going on? So there's so many times where he just cannot find a relationship with someone because of his abilities until he finds Lois Lane.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's another sort of negative aspect to all of his power that he has. He's powerful. I think I don't know if you're familiar with the book Soon I Will Be Invincible. It was a one-hit wonder by the author, but it actually addresses the question. You see all these heroes on television, you see them in the comics, you see them everywhere, that they're saving the day, they're doing all kinds of crazy stunts, they're performing exceptional feats of strength or athleticism, but the common person never, they're stuck wanting and dreaming and wanting to believe that one day they can have powers like these people, but then they never think about what happens when the cameras turn off. That what happens when they go home. That you see these heroes as heroes on television. You see them while they're stopping bad guys. You see them laughing as they're laughing with the policeman after they make a pun with the villain looking all sad in handcuffs and whatever, and then they go home. But you never see them go home. You never think about them going home. You never think about the fact that after the cameras turn off, they go to sleep with these powers. They spend the night with these powers. They wake up with these powers. Every day they deal with these powers. And that is Superman. We see him fight bad guys, but he lives with these powers, and it affects his life immensely, which is why it's so central to his character to learn the importance of control. It's so central to his character also to learn the aspects of his morality and what he can't do and what he can do. And that's what makes him so interesting. It's not the fact that he is encountering challenges that are stronger than he is. It's about him being able to overcome challenges that interrupt his sense of morality or interrupt his sense that he can take on any challenge or any danger and protect the entire world or the entire human race.
That was well said. Thank you, sir. I think we've exhausted our talk on Superman. Don't you think? I think it's pretty obvious. We know he's pretty clear.
I think we got it.
Yeah.
these like weird ass like stories where he tries to like grapple with modern issues or sort of how do I use this power wisely, but the way he uses his power is always the fucking same. I've seen 20 or 30 stories that all go exactly the same way. Superman, big strong man, very powerful, but then he encounters problem that cannot be fixed with punch. Superman must fly to Fortress of Solitude to think on this.
Yeah. this is why this is called complexity in his character. Also, there's nothing wrong with formula. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having him encounter, go through a formulaic process. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's not this same exact story over and over.
Yeah, this is very common pattern. In, like, you have hurdles, you have conflicts. You need to have that in a story. Superman is not the smartest guy in the world, even though he has this amazing heritage. So
yeah, I think in the canon, Superman is a genius, but you never actually see it. It's sort of like
right.
It's just done for plot points.
But that's because he has his nemesis, who's like the smartest guy in the universe almost.
Lex Luthor, yeah.
And then we have Brainiac, who's also super smart. There's Batman, who's super smart. So even though Superman can think, like he can literally think faster than anyone else and read faster and learn things faster, he's not a smart guy in comparison to these other geniuses who outwit him at every turn.
Yeah, and more to the point, Superman was the archetypical superhero. He was the one that birthed he is the main mold of superheroes. And superhero genre is the son of the pulp genre, or the pulp media. And pulps are defined by the formulaic process. That's why people think they are so low quality. There's such a low quality form of media, but they're not. But that's why I know that formula, just because it's a formula, doesn't mean it's bad. Formula isn't bad. It's the writing that would be bad.
I agree, yeah.
How do you solve problem that do not be punched? And then, invariably, he'll fly back after realizing that the truth was in him all along, and he'll punch something else or tangentially find a way to use his strength to solve the fucking problems in the story. Superman, if he has a flaw, he's not a Mary Sue. Wrong! Mary Sues can absolutely have flaws. And if that's the case, how the fuck can anybody accuse fucking Rey in The Last Jedi? How can anybody accuse...
Oh, here we go. Apparently he watched this video. We didn't watch the accompanying video to this, which is female characters in media and how to make a strong character, because I think if you'd mentioned it in this video, that flaws, just because a character has flaws doesn't mean they're not a Mary Sue. The flaws have to mean something, and Superman's flaws, they mean something. It's his whole morality system, like we've been explaining.
Yeah, it really depends on his definition. Again, we're talking about more literary terms here, and you have to really understand what a flaw is and what that means. So if you say a flaw is a character trait like antisocial nature or swearing or something where you're hurting other people, that would be considered a flaw if there's an arc for that flaw to be changed or altered. So they learned to deal with people, for example.
In fact, I already said in the video he's already watched that Mary Sues can have flaws. They're just not the flaws that matter, like being too pretty. And I said, the exact quote is, "And being too pretty, yes, that's real." I said that, and I guess he forgot.
Well, Rey has... I remember that scene where she holds the gun, and she's scared, like the gun's shaking. So she's obviously intimidated by what's happening, but then she fires it off twice and gets 2 headshots, and you're like, how is that even physically possible? Like, never mind her being...
She's just awesome, I guess.
I don't know. No, it's more than that, because if you're shaking a gun, it doesn't matter if you're scared or you don't know how to hold it, you're going to miss. But apparently...
being like some Three Stooges logic.
Yeah, having flaws, like being scared, plus waving your arm around and firing twice snipes a guy from 50 yards.
Being scared is not a flaw, unless you're maybe like Shaggy and it kind of messes up with things. But being scared is like a normal human reaction. It's not necessarily a flaw, unless you make it into one.
Yeah, it's like watching a clumsy warrior who's like, he doesn't know how to hold his sword, but he just destroys everyone around him because no one can understand his pattern.
Yeah, only Jackie Chan can do that, okay? No one else can do that.
Rey of being a Mary Sue, and she has multiple flaws that are expanded upon in the story. She's cowardly. She's not particularly disciplined. She doesn't have...
She's cowardly? When is she cowardly? I'm like, give me some examples, sir, when Rey is cowardly. She doesn't want to leave, but she in the very first part of the movie, when we first see her, she beats up a guy that's like twice her size by herself.
She beats up two guys with a stick, yeah.
Yeah, with a stick. Well, and they're like twice her size. You know what a coward would do in that situation? A coward would run. A coward would run away. They tried to talk down the situation. They're like, okay, come on, guys, we don't have to do this.
Yeah, and she stands up for that robot just because she met him. And I was like, okay. And she stole somebody's friend's jacket. It's like, okay, let's go beat him up. It's like, what?
Yeah, and she, like, I don't need you to hold your hand, Finn. Would you have this? Maybe I watched another movie with Rey in it or something. But yeah, she's not cowardly. She's not cowardly at all.
And she's undisciplined. Yeah, she has literally no training, so no one taught her to do stuff. I guess that's a flaw.
In fact, her being undisciplined is kind of why we call her Mary Sue, because she has no training. She just does incredible things, incredible feats incredible physical feats, incredible force feats, if you want to call them that, with no training. I think someone tried to defend this by saying, "Oh, she heard about stories from the Jedi." You don't hear about something and are then able to do it. Like I can't hear about Bruce Lee doing the no shadow kick or the 2-inch punch.
Right.
I can't hear about him doing that, and I can't see him doing that and then automatically do that. It doesn't work that way. It's not logical.
Like, we can go through her language skills, her technical skills, her fighting skills, her force skills, her piloting skills, her shooting skills, her shooting from a turret skill. Like, it's just like, how many more skills does she need that no one taught her and she can just do? It's ridiculous. But let's see his list of ever-growing faults of Rey.
have a strong sense of loyalty to the...
Yeah, where did that come from? Why? How? Who? Why does she care? Etc. It's just like, how much great things does she has to do for you to realize, where did this all come from? Where did she learn this? Who is her ethics teacher? Who is her sword teacher? Who is her stick teacher? Who taught her how to take things apart and how to, like, it's just ridiculous.
Nobody. Apparently, she is so naturally awesome that she just stayed by herself for countless years and just taught herself how to be this undeniable, awesome warrior that is also savvy in junk trade.
Like, it's one, technical. It's one thing to have, like, the Force communicate through her in some way to make her stronger and faster and know how to fight. Okay, let's go with that. But then it also teaches her how to understand technical things and where to go and have dreams, like all this other stuff. It's like, okay, we've never seen this happen before with anyone. This is not how it works. It's like, okay, are those flaws that she's undisciplined? Yes. But that's kind of the point.
The cause that she sort of enlisted herself in, she has...
Did she really enlist herself?
No, she's just, okay, maybe the rebellion or the resist. You're with the resistance. Okay, I guess I'll go with you. I don't get the sense.
She has no clear purpose in the story. She just goes.
Came off more like she's using the resistance as a means to an end.
Yeah, she wants to know.
Loyal to it.
She wants to know her place in the world. She doesn't know what's going on, so she seeks out Skywalker, and it just happens to be what the rebels want at the time.
But we don't really know why she seeks out Skywalker. Just like she needs something to do. And so she sees out Skywalker because that seems like it would be logical.
And then she wants to turn Kylo Ren because she saw it in a vision or something. And you're like, to do what? Like, what do you mean?
And then she Skyped with him on the Force or something.
Well, we didn't know who was doing that. Then we find out it was Snoke, who's super powerful.
And then dies.
And then he dies.
Oh man, he's so powerful. This is going to be great. Oh wait, he's dead.
like wavering faith in her ability. She is
wavering faith. When does she waver in her faith and her ability? She freaking meditates on a rock, and all she does is breathe. That's all Luke teaches her. Just breathe, okay? And she cracks the earth beneath her. We have no idea what the hell was going on. She has no idea what was going on. How can you have faith in something if you're not clear of what's going on?
I like how someone in the chat is saying Saitama is a Mary Sue. Like, I keep getting this. Like, even when I did my Is Comicsgate Wrong video series, Saitama is a Mary Sue. No, he's not. He is incredibly powerful. but he has flaws. He has a journey. There is a journey to Saitama.
His
He's not just
explanation for how he's strong is ridiculous, but it's still an explanation.
Yeah, I mean, even without the explanation, it could be a mystery. Like, because in the story, people are saying, "Well, how is this guy so strong?" It's a plot point. Like, it's a element of the narrative. How is this guy so strong? He shouldn't be this strong. It comes up over and over, and it becomes a mystery. Also, he has a journey. His journey is this. This is stated in episode 1 of One Punch Man. Okay, yet he's with his power. He's lost touch with his sense of humanity. He feels empty inside. The price he paid was his humanity for all these powers. And you can even see this in a little clip of his background, like the past. And he fights that crab monster or lobster monster or something. He's much more animated. He's much more human. And then he gets these powers, and all of a sudden he feels empty inside. He says this in the episode, that he feels empty, that he has sacrificed his humanity. He doesn't feel like he's part of the world anymore. This is not a Mary Sue character. This is a good character. It's just intriguing and interesting, and he's well developed.
And of course, half of that is a parody on the superhero genre or the superhero character. So it's kind of obvious that you can get away with a lot of things in parody and satire for the sake of parodying something and having characters parodying X number of characters from other stories. So we get that. That's clear. We don't know exactly where his powers come from. That's kind of the mystery of Saitama. But we know he trained with that. He did things. We don't know exactly how that worked, but there's an in-universe explanation. It's not a clear one, but it's there. With Rey, we have no idea. All we know is that Luke sensed it before with Kylo, and somehow she's stronger than Kylo, despite having no training. Who knows?
Multiple flaws that are detailed over the course of a single movie. And people still accuse her of being a Mary Sue. She's reckless as shit. She is by no means flawless.
She's reckless. Okay, she gets cut. Reckless. Yeah, she gets cut on the arm during the most ridiculous choreographed fight scene in the entire series. How this happened, we don't know. She gets saved by the same guy who cuts her because he just didn't feel like using his left hand at the time. It's just like, oh, she broke the rock she was sitting under when she was trying to breathe because she sensed the dark side. It's like, what? What does that
mean? Even if she were reckless, it's not necessarily a flaw. When does her recklessness actually put people in danger? When does her recklessness actually bring back the plans, set back the plans that they have? So, like, I know Finn, he goes to rescue her, but then she rescues herself. So, and then they just help. I think they escape or something. But every time she's quote unquote reckless, it doesn't like hurt her side or anything. It just hurts her. Maybe if you're stretching it, because she got captured for a little bit. But then again, her being reckless got her the force power to control minds, because she once heard a Jedi story.
If you apply enough willpower, Rey can do anything, apparently. That's the thing. She gets into a problem, it's like, oh, I'm trapped. Oh, what do I do?
I mean, it's like if you watch a movie and the person, it gets captured because of their own stupidity, and then they escape, or they're from that stupidity, nothing bad happens. Like, they don't set back their allies, but they gain, like, the magical sword. They gain, like, Excalibur or something. Or they find, like, the very thing they need. Or they gain like a steroid pill that gives them like twice as many muscles or something. If it comes out with a net gain with no loss whatsoever, it's not really a flaw. It's just something good that happens because she's just that awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to even like the isekai genre in manga. It's explained that the powers come from somewhere. You know, you're reborn as a new person. You have the X abilities. You have these game-based stats or skills that are unique. It's like, oh, yeah, and then you have the power fantasy of whatever you're doing. With Rey, it's just power. It's just skill, ability, random chance. You just happen to meet up at the Super Death Star, a freaking size of a planet, and they just happen to meet up with Finn. It's like, how the hell did they meet up? Contrivance.
She gets called by an inanimate object, the lightsaber, because Lightsabers can do that now, I guess.
But not for Luke, because Luke is, he's a kid.
And it calls to Rey, of all people, not to
Why?
Luke or someone else of the Skywalker bloodline. It is calls to Rey because...
Across time and space, just...
Mary Sues are not a thing. Yes, they are. Mary Sues are a thing. There are characters that are just not that interesting. Superman is not that interesting.
Okay, being not interesting or being boring does not mean you're a Mary Sue. Okay, it's not even being powerful. I've said this already. It's not even being powerful. So I'm glad he acknowledges though that Mary Sues are a thing and are not just sexist, which is kind of countering what he said at the beginning of this video. But I guess his version of Mary Sue is sanitized and not sexist.
Remember, it's rooted in narrative correctness.
Narrative correctness. I'm going to use that now. I'm going to use that. What does narrative correctness mean?
Ray is not narratively correct, therefore she is not a Mary Sue.
She's politically correct.
I don't know. Apparently she's not, because she's not a feminist or female, because then that would be incorrect. Non-narrative correctness. That would be an ideal imposed upon the narrative, which is external by the writer or whatever. So I guess she's not a Mary Sue because she's not female. She's clearly a male.
Yeah, she's clearly a man. She identifies as a man.
Oh God.
Interesting. The best Superman story ever written to my mind was probably Red Sun, which is when Superman gets yeeted to Earth a little bit.
Oh no. So Superman Red Sun, I haven't read that one, but is the one where he's a communist, right?
Yeah, he gets discovered by some farmers in Soviet Russia, and the same character, like Lana Lang, he grows up with Lana Lang, and he ends up being a champion of the working people, and he has no ambitions to be a leader of whomever. But the thing is, he's still Superman, so he doesn't care where the problem is in the world. He'll go off and fix it.
Well, that's an interesting subject then. Okay, so that's interesting because it's not just a propaganda piece where he's just a communist and upholding the communist way.
That's how that's how it starts off. It gets really dark pretty quick. So
that's kind of what happens to modern day Superman. He's supposed to be for the American way or that, but
exactly.
He doesn't really uphold the American way. He upholds his sense of morality and doing right and wrong.
Yeah, the Justice Lords they call, after the death of Lois Lane, he flips out, and
I think Justice Lords, wasn't that the death of the Flash, and then
yes, that's the one.
Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clark just goes nuts. He's like, to hell with humanity. I'm just doing what I want. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's why Superman as a character is so scary, because he's such a quote unquote Boy Scout. I don't mind him being a Boy Scout. Okay, I like the Paragon archetype if done correctly, but that's why he's such a scary character to think about, because he's so powerful. The only thing stopping him from being a tyrant is his set of ethics. And it's scary to think about him snapping, or throwing those away.
That is the core of Superman is Jonathan Kent and his mom. If he was not raised by those people, the salt of the earth farmers, to be uphold truth, justice, in the American way, he would have been a nightmare. It's the same not crossworlds, but in Smallville, where there's an alternate dimension where he was raised by the Luthers. So all the sibling rivalry that occurred there, he's essentially like the Dark World version of our Superman from Smallville. So yeah, there's all kinds of stories like that put Superman in a different light for the sake of that, which we talked about already. So, but he's talking about Red Sun, and just so you know, guys, I actually read Red Sun this morning, so we're going to see what exactly he's talking about here.
While later he ends up in Soviet Russia and ends up becoming trying to take over the world in a great big communist. That was a good ass story right there. But
I agree, it was a very cool story.
It sounds cool from the way you describe it. It does sound really interesting.
Yeah, I do recommend checking it out and just get your own opinion of what they did with Superman, and we'll see what this gentleman thinks about it too.
Superman wasn't interesting in that story. Superman's only real...
He was one of the main characters. He was amazing in that. Can you imagine him having a hammer and sickle on his chest?
Now, I'm starting to get the sense that this guy has the same outlook, or a similar outlook that I do, that he's too powerful, and this guy seems like he's more interested in the everyman, non-powered heroes rather than these overpowered heroes. That's what it seems like anyway.
Well, whenever you humanize a character, that's when you start to identify with him. And with Superman, he's more of an ideal. He's like the ideal sort of invisible hand that is just there when you don't know he's going to be there in the nick of time. He's going to save the day, and then he's gone instantly as before you could even notice because he's too busy. And that's actually one of the points in the story where there's a party just for him, and he's gone. He just takes off because he's too busy helping people. So... And then he meets up with Batman and Wonder Woman and all these other characters who are slightly different, of course. So that's kind of his thing. He doesn't have time for celebration. He has no personal life. He can't. He's sacrificing everything he's got. So when we look at Clark as a character, he's like, yeah, that's him as a person. He wants to be normal. He wants to fit in. He wants to be around the people he cares about and his friends and have a normal job and do all that stuff, but he can't. Like, it's pretty obvious. So when you have him in this new light as a communist, and, it's not even about that, the first comic. It's not even about the communist way. It's just he just happens to be born in that era, and that was it.
Flaw in the course of that story was that he was not power hungry, but he was too too eager to ascribe his desire to help people to a political ideology.
Not really. I mean, that's part of it. It's always been a part of him to help people. But at the end of the first book, he's always saying, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to get involved in politics. I just want to be the working man. I want to help the working man. And then he comes home after the death of Stalin, and all these people use their life savings to travel to wherever, the Moscow or wherever, where they had the funeral. And they were trying to travel back, and there's all these bread lines. And he sees Lana, and he hears and sees Lana Lang in the bread line, and she has 2 kids. And he's like, hey, comrade, can you please let these kids come in line? They're hungry. It's like, no. You don't understand, Superman. These people in front of us, they've been standing around for weeks. This is how long this line has been going. He's like, what are you talking
communism.
about? Yeah, exactly. And he's like, and then he goes, well, to hell with this. I'm going to help these people. Like, to hell with all my previous ideologies. This is the climax of the whole story of the first comic. So, I mean, he's changed his mind on this story. That's called an arc, where he's seen 2 choices and he changes his ideology and he changes as a character. And that with it is the beginning of how he has his downward spiral into becoming this tyrant.
And that's what we call a character having agency. They are the ones that are faced with a choice, and then they make a choice, not because the writer wants them to, because they have their own set of morals, and they have their own ideologies, and then they are set with a difficult choice, and then they make that choice in respect to those morals and ideologies. And that's what you have. That's when your character has agency. That's when they have a character arc. They change from one thing to another because of the choices they made.
And it's something as simple as just an old girlfriend he had growing up that caused him to think differently. It wasn't this, the climax wasn't this amazing, oh my God, he has to change his mind. It's like, no, I'm going to help you now. So if I'm going to help you, I'm going to help everyone because he's Superman. That's how he thinks. So I don't see how he missed that. That was like the last page of the first comic. It was a pretty big deal. So again, maybe he didn't reference it, or it wasn't as fresh as it was in my mind. But there are other flaws that he goes through, right? Especially near the end of the third book, which I'm not going to spoil for you guys. But I mean, it's there. He's not some static, flat character. He's still Superman, though.
And the only time he finds any...
Sorry?
Superman is identifiable.
Yes.
He has characteristics, he has flaws, and we can see where logically he would end up given a scenario. So he is well developed, well fleshed out, and that's why people like him, because he represents an ideal. He is an icon.
And he's a simple character. He's not this overtly complex fellow. That's also what makes us identify with it, because it's so clear. It's so obvious. He's an immigrant. He doesn't fit in. We get that. People who are coming to a new community or traveling or moving with their parents, they got to make friends again. They got to do all these things. It's the same story. Only he has to hide this other side of him because he doesn't want people to think he's a freak, which is pretty much the entire Marvel storyline of every comic they've written. So it fits in, so obvious. And of course, there's the whole Jesus complex, or constantly sacrificing himself, etc. So he's doing this, and he's sacrificing everything he's got just for that one extra life to be, to not get hit by the bullet or get hit by the car. He wants to do that. And that's why we like him, because he sacrifices everything he's got every moment he can, because he can. Like, imagine if you had these powers and you wanted to be a good person. Would you be running around like the Flash trying to just stop things from happening? Like hearing pain, hearing screams across thousands of kilometers? Would you be running around? Maybe. Maybe you'd stop and think about it too. Superman, he's like, I can't think. I can't stop. I got to keep going.
That's why Zod is such an interesting character to act as like a Superman foil, because Zod is Kryptonian. He has these same exact powers as Superman, but he has different ethics. He has different outlooks and ideologies and goals. We get to see what happens when someone not so ethical has control of all this immense power. We get to appreciate Superman's control, his list of morals. We get to see them and respect them and appreciate them far better.
Conflict in that story is at the very end when fucking Lex Luthor would you put the whole world in a bottle shit and yeets that back at Superman. That's the only time he comes to grasp the severity of his character flaw, and by that
so he does have a character flaw. He admits it. Good. That's not exactly what happens. It's more like a question he asks Superman posthumously, because he wrote it on an envelope and Lois Lane is carrying it. And he goes off and he figures that, he changes his mind. Like, that's the climax of the third story. So it's not just one climax in all these stories. And it's not just the same problem. Oh, I'm too strong. It's not it. That's not it at all. He's realizing that what he's been doing has been bad, has been wrong.
I like how someone in the chat, JJJJ, said, narratively, Ray is always in the right, though.
Really?
Yeah, we have it paused right here. So this guy says his name is JJJJJ. Narratively, Ray is always in the right, though. You know why that person says that and thinks that? Because it's true.
Oh, she's narratively correct? Oh.
Yeah, she's narratively correct.
I wish I knew what that meant, please.
She's always in the right in the movie, though. Ray is always correct in the movie.
This is perhaps true. Ethically, morally, physically, socially. Yeah, it's all correct. She knows to solve every problem. She does solve every problem.
Oh, there's another one, Camilos. They're mentioning Goku, which is someone that is often compared to Superman. And Goku is immensely powerful like Superman. I mean, Goku is more identifiable as a flawed character, but his main flaw is his never-ending desire to fight, and that interrupts his family life, interrupts his relationships. It endangers the universe and the world over and over again because, one, he's always training so he can prepare for the next fight, and that leaves his son and wife pretty much alone all the time. And then, second of all, when he's fighting an immensely powerful opponent, when he's about to beat them, he lets them go so they can get stronger. That's something he might do. So he just shows... People might think of that as mercy, but it's not mercy. It's because he wants them to go get stronger so he can have a better challenge later on. So that is a powerful tragic flaw because it has come back to bite him many, many times in many different scenarios. I think it even ends up with his family dying, like his son, at least one of his sons dying.
Yeah, and very similar to comics, he has various transformations and various iterations, like his 4 levels of power that he goes up and up and up as he draws on more energy to fight. So that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but that's kind of the nature of the story. That's kind of the character that they're given, that he overcomes all these problems as he encounters even stronger characters. That's why he keeps training, etc. So it's a pretty simple and obvious series of conflicts, and they might be formulaic, but that's the point of the story.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a formula. Dragon Ball Z is probably a really good example of being successful and also being formulaic.
And it's a bunch of dudes just punching each other out till one of them dies or stops fighting. So it's obviously the patriarchy who made these Japanese animes. Mary Sue.
Point, the fucking story is over. Superman is a Mary Sue.
Wow, it's called the climax. Then the ending occurs. Wow, it's like, what more do you want? You want more story? The denouement is not big enough, guys. We need to. Actually, the denouement is pretty decent. If you read the third comic, it explains everything in detail. It goes beyond actually transhumanism and talks about Lex Luthor, just bringing a gigantic renaissance to the planet Earth as a result of his conflict with Superman. So,
that's cool.
Immortality, all these amazing telepathy, all these amazing abilities.
Read this comic.
Oh, it's cool. It's a very cool comic, yeah.
The only reason people disagree with this is because they grew up with stories with him, or because this writer or that writer put in the extra fucking effort to, here's one niche scenario by which Superman might have to actually think about this. And
well, that's what Red Sun is. It's an Elseworlds comic. It's a what if. That's the.
He's not actually a communist.
No, that's just like that's it. That's the one. There's all kinds of. There's an Elseworlds where the baby inside of Lois Lane kicks and kills her from hemorrhaging, and that destroys him. And he goes off on this whole anti-human slant where he's not going to associate with humans anymore because they're too weak, and he doesn't want to have a repeat of that, etc. Like these things, that's the point. It's fun to explore those what if worlds. They're just non-canon.
Yeah, there's still what if.
Yeah. Doesn't make him any less a character. Makes him more of a character. Now, if the what ifs were he's a super guy and he just kills everyone, like okay, well, that's kind of boring. I'm sure they're out there, but there's so many to drive from. It's like comparing like one example, one primary source to literally thousands. Like Superman is totally a Mary Sue. No, not half the time. Not in the New 52.
sort of relate to his... But what... Okay, actually, hold on. What is a character flaw of Superman? Can somebody tell me?
Okay, well, his entire persona, where he acts as this mild-mannered gentleman, and he's constantly struggling to tell Lois who he is. I mean, before, obviously, Lois figures out, or he tells her. And he's struggling between that and his other self, which is, strong and bold and powerful.
I mean, you can call Superman a Mary Sue. It's just lazy and two-dimensional in the way you're looking at him. He's more. He's more than just a guy who's really powerful and white, which is, I guess, apparently something that's awful, just unforgivable trait of Superman. Hey, Mr. Progressive, one of his character flaws is that he's white. Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. No, it's because he's... no, but he's a communist. So that's a good thing in Red Sun, so I guess it's... Can't do that.
Checkmate. I got you.
I mean, the aspect with the Connor, he thinks that, or he doesn't react to it. He sort of just runs away from Connor every time Connor wants to shake his hand or say hello. He's too scared of him. And Batman's like, listen, Clark, you're wrong. You're dead wrong, Clark. He needs a father figure. Go talk to him. And he won't do it. So he has problems identifying with others, just like him, who are going through exactly the same problems he was when he was growing up. Little Connor was born a clone, so he just instantly was born as a young adult. And he doesn't know how to identify with. He doesn't know how to help him. He's scared. He's literally scared of a kid, just like him. He's too busy. He's too despondent. He doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, he has lots of flaws. It's more centered around his...
Like, pick a story, man. Pick any. I'm sure they're out there. Oh, did we lose the stream? What's going on? Oh, okay.
Still alive?
So let's see. No, kryptonite is not a character flaw. That's just an arbitrary weakness they threw in there because it was the only way to make it narratively interesting for humans to fight against him. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything.
He's asking his audience.
He's
asking his audience that agree with him whether or not there are character flaws in Superman. I wouldn't ask. Okay, I would have to find out on my own. Because if you're talking to a bunch of people who already agree with you and are willing to take your word as gospel,
Yeah, I mean,
then they will be agreeing with you.
it's how you define a character flaw. Again, I would say it's one which has to do with the psychology of dealing with others. So if it impacts your social reality, not the public plot line where you have to go through like, oh, I'm too weak, I have to get stronger. That's not a character flaw. That's just a hurdle you have to overcome.
That's not Superman's journey. Superman's journey is not to get stronger. It's his set of morals.
Yeah, he doesn't want to kill. He's kind of like Batman in the classical sense, if we understand the comics after 1970s. He's very justice. He doesn't want to hurt, but he will. He has killed people, and there's things he has to... He's constantly holding himself back. I believe he said that. He's scared of punching too hard or whatever. He doesn't want to hurt people. So yeah, he has this sacrificial mentality. And he just throws himself at things, and he's not understanding the actual, the full reality of what he's throwing himself at before it's too late. So he can see and hear so far and so quickly, but he doesn't think things through. He ends up getting himself hurt. He can get others hurt. Thinking he's strong enough to deal with these issues. I'm trying to think of one of the storylines. I'm trying to remember the name in the JLA. Where he'll just launch himself ahead and there's no one else around to back him up.
Someone in the chat on his stream says, "Oh, one of his character's traits is he likes cops."
What?
Like it's in there. Like I think it's underneath Cherry the Smelt.
He likes
who says
cops.
He's naive. And he likes cops is one of the answers to where's his character flaws. Well, he likes cops, obviously.
Okay, sure. I guess. If you don't like the police, that's a social
don't think
thing.
Blue Lives Matter, then I guess.
Oh yeah. Oh dear. let's not go into political discussions here. Let's not get any weirder than we already.
Too strong. He's too good of a boy. Yeah. Sometimes his flaw is that he's just too perfect, and it makes it difficult for him to relate to other people.
Let's say that's true. Is that not a flaw? He's too much of one thing and he's like, oh, well, I can't deal with these people. They're beneath me, or I'm going to hurt them, or I can't relate to them.
I wouldn't say that specifically was a flaw. The flaw is that he can't... It's hard for him to relate, because if he's too perfect, that's not really much of a flaw in and of itself. It's because of his... it's inhumanity. Like, it's the things that are separating him from the rest of humanity, because he is wanting to be part of humanity. But all these other things, these other gifts, these other things that make him different and separate him from the community.
We can even look at his ideology and say it's too naive to the real world. He has this American ideal that does not fit in with certain scenarios, whereas Batman is sort of like constantly badgering Clark on, you shouldn't be doing this, Clark. Let me take over. He's like, no, you're going to hurt those people. It's like, yeah, of course, they're bad people. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So he has this sense of morality that doesn't change. And faced with common scenarios like Batman or Wonder Woman's pretty flexible. In most stories, she's always for justice, but she's always in her own flavor of that. So sometimes it's Amazonian, so her pretty brutal, and sometimes it's the American way. Sometimes she follows Batman around and believes whatever he believes in. So there's all these different ways of looking at it. She's sort of the in-between Batman and Superman. So that's kind of what makes their relationship interesting, that they have these two, one in the light, one in the dark sort of mentality of ethics. And Superman is always seen as the Boy Scout. So whether you consider that a paragon, like there's, what's the trope? The stupid paladin? I can't remember.
You get a lawful stupid or something?
Lawful stupid, something like that. Yeah, it's just like, well, I have these ideals, and I will not compromise them for reality. It's like...
Let me put it this way. Like, okay, so whenever Superman goes bad, what is the cause of him going bad? What is the thing that writers always go to make Superman falling, to make him as a fallen hero seem believable? It's his code of ethics. It's his outlook. It's his naivete.
When he loses his loved ones, he doesn't care anymore. He's like, boom.
His ideology in that instance is shattered. And because his ideology is shattered, his code of ethics, okay, if you look at this in the natural sense, like a Mother Nature sort of sense, his code of ethics is rigid, it's very tough. But as people who have studied this knows that if it's something that's rigid and tough, it's more prone to break. It's not flexible. Like a blade of grass is flexible, it bends in the wind. His code of ethics is more like a tree. When it's very hard to break, it's very tough. But when it breaks, it snaps in two. It is destroyed. And that's why they always go to his code of ethics as a believable route to make Superman an evil tyrant. That is his character flaw.
I think that's pretty accurate. It's not like the best character flaw. It's not the clearest character flaw, but it's a flaw.
Yeah, it's a flaw. That's what makes him evil. That's what makes him believably evil anyway.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. When I was reading Red Sun, I was like, he's just Superman. He just happened to be, he landed over there, and that was it.
In Russia.
Yeah, but then he decides to go full dictator. It's like, ooh,
Well,
red lines are bad. Okay.
I mean, he is a communist. It's sort of like a part of the course.
Too confident? No, he's not. He second guesses himself all the time, but never so much that it actually eats into his self-esteem. He has no self-esteem issues whatsoever. Superman is completely...
Really? He doesn't feel defeated at all?
I've seen comics where he feels defeated and he loses self-esteem.
Yeah.
I haven't even read that many comics.
I've seen quite a few where he literally doesn't know what to do, and he stops, and you see... I remember the Sandman series. They're going near hell, and because Superman has these amazing hearing and sight, and he looks into hell, and he hears all their cries, and he's stunned, and he starts falling into hell because he doesn't know what to do. There's an infinite number of voices calling out for help, and he has no clue what to do. All of a sudden, I think it's a dream, or whoever picks him up. Say, hey, whoa, what are you doing? Stop that! Come back here. So. Yeah, there are plenty of times where Superman is just distraught, unconfident. He's not sure what to do. I think the Kingdom Come series, he just gives up. He just retires. and Wonder Woman was like, "Hey, Clark," and he's like, "Ugh, what do you want?"
Not looking. I mean, he even mentioned the Kingdom Come series, and not looking very good. Your credentials aren't looking. They're not really holding up, Mr. Comic Book Expert.
Well, we all have to reread something before we quote it, so it's kind of a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do that, but if he wants to, he mentioned Kingdom Come. He mentioned Kingdom Come, and now he's saying that he's never defeated, and you're saying that Superman just gives up in Kingdom Come. So
yeah,
somebody doesn't fit there. Something does not fit there.
It's possible I could have had it wrong. I've read that book 20 years ago, so it's possible.
Immune to any sort of negative neuroses. Sometimes the greatest extent to which Superman is capable of feeling neurotic is when he's sad he didn't do the punch good enough, and then he does a think for a little while until something cheers him up.
Maybe that's true. I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Okay, so if you do something that you don't feel like you've done, that you have to go off and think about it, that you need some time alone because the thing you did was so unacceptable in your eyes that you have to think about it alone. Yeah, that's not as shakeable. That's not as shaken self-esteem.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you punch the guy twice as hard or not as hard. It's just like it's still something that shook him.
That's a pretty good character flaw. He has too far. I think we've mentioned this exactly.
Yeah,
his standards are too high for himself. He has too much of a view, too high a view of his own expectations upon himself, that when he can't reach those expectations, his view sort of shatters and it takes him out of play.
Yeah, when he's confident with himself, he's witty and charming. He's, "Oh, Lex, what are you up to tonight?" Ha ha ha, that sort of thing. And then he gets, bombarded by kryptonite and he loses his mind. He's like, ah.
According to him, the way he's describing things, his flaw is that he has a very easily shakeable mentality. He's easily overwhelmed. He's easily snapped. It's like I said before, his mind and his code of ethics are strong and powerful, but when they are shaken or when they're broken, they're snapped.
Yeah, I think we can look even to the Snyder movie of him trying to get Batman's help. He's like, listen, I need your help to save my... And then he just forgets about it and just keeps fighting. He could have avoided the entire fight just by telling him what's going on.
Usually punching again. True, he is a liberal. That is a pretty severe character flaw.
He is a liberal?
Who?
Superman, really? I don't think his politics are ever really mentioned, aside from the Red Sun comic where it's specific.
I think there was one where he voted for the Democratic.
Yeah, okay.
I think there was one. I think doesn't mean he's a liberal. He just votes Democrat. I mean, he voted for one Democratic candidate. They came out with a comic during the Obama versus whoever thing. Oddly enough, Wonder Woman voted Republican. But so Wonder Woman.
This has nothing to do with character flaws. I don't know what's going.
Nothing to do with character flaws. Nothing to do with Mary Sue. So he's just ranting about Superman. No wonder this video is so long.
Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that if you try and apply the Mary Sue... Now, mind you, there are good stories written with Superman in them. I don't hate seeing him there. I don't see Superman... He would
Okay, so the bad stories are where he's always Mary Sue? But there are some good ones where he's not Mary Sue. Okay, so we've established he's not a Mary Sue. Thank you.
Yeah, was it not clear that I was referencing the good ones? It's all of the Superman stuff together. That's why he's loved by the people. If it was just referencing like the bad ones, I wouldn't say he was loved because people like him. He doesn't have a big fan base because all of his stories are bad. He has a fan base because he has a lot of really good and interesting stories. I thought that was clear.
Maybe he's also Mary Sue in those stories. I don't know. It's just like... So it's a bad character, but it's a good story. I don't know, maybe something like that.
never challenge the system, only the villains. I agree that's a flaw, but that's a flaw of superheroes in general, and that's not...
Okay, well, then he has a flaw.
He has a flaw.
Thank you, he has a flaw.
It doesn't matter if other heroes have that flaw. You agree on the flaw of Superman. Okay, awesome. We agree that Superman has flaws, and they are very powerful flaws. That flaw, in fact, exactly, is a flaw explored by Frank Miller in Dark Knight Returns. So thank you for that. So yeah, okay. So Superman does have character flaws.
He's too trusting. He's too nice. He's too this. It's like, okay, well, that's a flaw, I guess.
You come to the conclusion that Superman does.
It doesn't matter if it's a positive characteristic or a negative characteristic. The effect of that flaw is that it has a bad relationship with the social world they're in,
and it affects him negatively.
Exactly. So he's too good, still a flaw. He's too bad, still a flaw.
Played as a flaw within the story. That'd be like me saying every character has a character flaw because they're all capitalists. It's not really narratively relevant in most stories.
What?
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Koei Nomori likes the Red Sun so much.
Yeah, this is a very strange comment. Just because they're capitalists, if it has nothing to do with the story, it's not in the story, what does their economic ideology have anything to do with them as a character? It's like, what are you talking about?
Replace capitalist with communist and you have a point, but you know.
This is a very strange thing, because their ideology about aesthetics, they're hedonists. Oh my God. Okay. That's a character flaw, even though it has nothing to do with the story, even though it's never mentioned. Okay. They're Aristotelian. Oh my God. They read the Categoria. What are we going to do?
Stories. Whatever the case may be, he's an illegal immigrant. Whatever the case may...
That's true. He is an illegal immigrant. That's de facto.
I think he probably has citizenship by now.
Well, I think there's not much the American people can say. Oh, yeah. He's American, yeah. He's good.
Yeah, you can. It's like Homelander. It's like, okay, he can do what he wants.
I'm American, yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying that I can't enjoy stories with Superman in them. I can. But dude's totally a Mary Sue. Batman...
Example, please. Again, citation needed, sir. Just give me one example and we'll agree with you. That's all we need.
Batman is too.
Batman's a Mary Sue? What?
He's mentioning Batman. I want to see...
yeah.
Does he say Batman is a Mary Sue?
He just did. Okay, here we go. Batman is... Now it's the whole roster. the triumvirate. Just boom.
Batman is like the coolest. Batman is like the coolest, edgiest, most powerful, smartest dude in the whole universe, and he mourns the tragic death of his parents fucking 80 years ago or some shit. But never really mourns it enough for him to develop any serious neuroses.
No serious neuroses. Batman.
What?
The guy is a control freak over the death of his family.
He doesn't want anything ever to happen. That's why he's against guns officially, like in the most, or at least the most recent iterations of him, is against guns because a gun shot his parents. He doesn't want to do any of that again.
I don't know about, how does being a vigilante not make you have neurotic tendencies? Let's go beat up some people. No, you're not neurotic. You have no psychoses whatsoever.
He's a man who dresses up as a bat.
It's like, yeah, he's a superhero.
I think losing his parents in that manner messed with his mind at least a little bit.
He threw away the most important years of his life for 10 years to become Batman.
I think he is based off of Zorro.
He's
inspired from Zorro.
Obsessive, compulsive control freak. I don't know what scale of neurosis that is on, a typical student of the APA, but it's
There's
on
definitely
it.
some neuroses there.
There's something going on.
Something went wrong with him. There's something wrong with him. He has flaws. Okay, he's too controlling. In fact, in so many characterizations of Batman, he is so controlling, it drives away everyone close to him at one point or another.
And all of his abilities are explained. He trained for that. Why did he train? Because his parents died. He's traumatized. He's never letting it go. He barely sleeps. His persona of Bruce Wayne is exactly that, a persona. In his mind, he's Batman. When he gets touched by, I can't remember what comic it was, by the lasso of truth, and they introduce themselves because it's the first time they meet.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, who are you? Batman.
Batman. Yeah, that's one thing that people have noticed about Batman is that he's not. Bruce Wayne is his costume, and Batman is his actual face. He's kind of like a Rorschach. And he took off Rorschach's mask. He's like, give me back my face. Like, give me my face back.
Rorschach, yeah. I mean, we could talk about Watchmen for a bit. That's always fun. But to say Batman is not neurotic is like, okay, what aspect of his psyche do you need to address? The fact that he goes insane whenever he loses a Robin? Is he just like some stoic? No, he's not a stoic. He's emotional. He just bottles it down every freaking day because he's trying to keep it together. He does not stop obsessing over his family, even though he has no progenitor. There's the one comic this year that came out with Catwoman, whom he was supposed to marry. This crazy story where he goes out and sort of not says goodbye, but sort of talks to all the other members of the JLA, and he goes out with Wonder Woman for like a year or two in this alternate dimension where time passes faster, but for everyone else it's like 5-10 minutes, and he's fighting with Wonder Woman for years, and just to help her out in this one mission. And Catwoman's like just going through all the steps of what he's been doing and all the people he associates with and all the things he does every day. And then Catwoman calls off the wedding because she realizes that Batwoman's more important than her happiness.
Yeah.
It destroys the man. He's like, what the hell? He finally was able to open up to Selena and admit. Like they went through this whole arc of him like, yeah, of course I love you. I want to marry you. And it wasn't like she wanted him to say it honestly to him because she felt that he wasn't being truthful.
Neil Gaiman explored that too, but it's a whole other thing.
Oh, Neil Gaiman, yeah. I mean, he took on some of the Batman and Superman elements.
He tried to do a play on whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, but it was Neil Gaiman-esque. It was but it was about Batman. I think it was whatever happened to the Dark Knight, and it was it's very. I'll say this: it's very Neil Gaiman. You should check it out. It's pretty good.
So to say
he does
that
he does explore that Catwoman Batman mentality.
Yeah. So to say that Batman does not have psychological issues is, oh wow.
Batman has flaws. I've listed those traits that he said in the very beginning because these are things that usually associated with Mary Sue's, and then I said these aren't actually things that indicate a character's Mary Sue. I mean, they might be indicators, but they're not silver bullets. I mean, they're not like a mandatory, solid, concrete elements of a Mary Sue. This to happen might indicate one.
The mentality that Batman is some sort of rock solid persona that he's always in control. That's what he's trying to become. He's always trying to achieve control, no matter what happens. He masters all these elements of psychology to get into the mind of his opponents, so that he can always be in control. That's his whole superpower, is just planning ahead and knowing what could happen. But he can never actually predict that. There's the whole time where he got his back broken, and it was called the Mantle of the Bat series, and he sees some doctor who has like some magical healing powers, and she dies off, and he has to go fight Azrael, this bloodthirsty Batman that he put in control. And it's this like harrowing story of him having to deal with what he came before and how he has to prove himself to himself, being Batman again, jumping off a cliff with no he fights Azrael with no gadgets. He's just pure fighting. He's like, I'm going to do this normal way. I'm not going to use any of my technology. I'm just going to see if I'm worthy of being Batman. Because if I'm not, there's no point to any of this. That's an ideology.
Batman is not a Mary Sue. Batman is not a Mary Sue. And neither is Superman. I wonder if he's going to mention that Wonder Woman is a Mary Sue. Is he going to mention that Wonder Woman is a Mary Sue? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt he's going to say Wonder Woman is a Mary Sue.
He just doesn't trust those who get too close to him, like every other fucking white bachelor. Oh, wow.
What?
White people. He's white again. Man.
Except for, Talia al Ghul.
This is racist.
Selena.
Is racist. The thing is now, the thing we're not talking about like Black Panther or something. Let's just get really racist.
I know, but now it's like saying he doesn't trust women. Well, he sleeps around, so you trust them enough to sleep with them. So I guess not.
Batman doesn't really trust anyone, maybe except Alfred. And,
right. Well, okay. If the arc with Selena, yeah, he trusts her a lot. He trusts he trusts Clark. He trusts the JLA. He trusts He trusts Robin. I mean, yeah, it is a high bar to pass with Batman, but he gets into people's heads. He trusts them as far as he can throw them, literally, probably. So I think he's not beyond that element of psychology again.
An incredibly wealthy, handsome, talented, muscular, intelligent, well-planning, witty, cognizant superhero.
Almost all of those traits he trained for with the world's best for 10 years. He mastered every martial art, lockpicking, with Zatanna's dad, one of the best escape artists, one of the best boxers in the world, one of the best detectives in the world. He worked for the FBI for 2 years. He
identified everything he would need to be Batman.
Exactly.
And he trained for years to get to that point.
He jumped off a frickin' cliff on a wooden kite. It's just like he did crazy stuff to become Batman.
Whose deepest, darkest flaw is that his parents being shot made him wary of other people.
Well, that was one thing it did. It made him exceedingly seeking vengeance on the entire city of Gotham and all of its evildoers, where he became a vigilante himself to show them how it's done without guns, because he's that badass at fighting. It pushed him to his limit. That's the point of Batman. Batman is just a guy, if given enough resources and time, can do the impossible. And yeah, he's a bit of a control freak. That's his thing. He doesn't need to travel the world. Gotham is his world. How far do we have to go here?
I have no idea.
It's freaking Batman. I think everyone knows his story and why the Batman is the Batman.
And this is common knowledge. I know this. I know what he's done to become Batman. He's done all kinds of crazy things. He's earned everything he has. And he still has flaws.
He's loved and feared by the people. It's a complicated relationship with Batman. Is he born with exceedingly good talents? Yes, but then he nurtured those talents. He's apparently the greatest detective in the world. Maybe not the same intelligence of a Lex Luthor, but he certainly can get into his head and save the day. Because there's that whole trope called the Batman Gambit, where he doesn't necessarily see all the steps ahead. He induces or inducts that the Joker's going to behave this way if this would have happened.
He counts on his enemies acting like his enemies.
Yes.
So he knows he knows their psychology, and he knows how they'll react in different scenarios. And the Batman Gambit is when Batman sets up a plan that relies on his opponent acting like his opponents always act.
That's part of his repertoire. He has that skill. So he is exactly what he wanted to be. He is the you could call him the Ubermensch in that regard. I don't know if that's the proper method when you talk about the Superman, and they've achieved everything, and they're an example to the people to what to become. I guess you could say that's kind of what ends up happening in The Dark Knight Returns. There's I can't remember the group, but they're essentially followers of the Batman, and he has to come in and tell them how to behave because they're just a gang essentially. So yeah, there's a bit of symmetry between that and philosophy, but it's his character. It's who he is.
Wow, wow, good, nice. Wow, excellent.
Okay, this guy does not like Batman. Fine, we get it.
Tremendous. Parents were shot? Wow, you're right. That's all it takes. You can have a fucking flawless character front to back who can do everything and is super cool, who is so fucking edgy and perfect that fucking adolescents have been jerking themselves off for 60 years talking about how, well, actually, if you gave Batman enough time, he could defeat any villain or hero.
Okay, don't put the image of adolescents jerking off into this little conversation. That's really weird and creepy.
I guess he just does not like Batman. I mean, fine, that's your taste, buddy. But to say he's a Mary Sue is insane.
Is it because Batman had to earn things? Is that why he doesn't like him? I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Remember, his definition of Mary Sue is just different from everyone else's. So he's so proficient or rooted in narrative correctness. What is the narrative correctness of Batman?
He made up a definition. He made up a term so that he can be right and everyone else can be wrong. It's like a nebulous term that he created.
And apparently being the Batman is the right way to be in the world where the cops just want to constantly capture him. All the bad guys want to kill him.
Like, obviously, the definition of Mary Sue is Bandersnatch, okay? If you can't understand that, then you're stupid.
Or in any universe, you just have to give him the Hulk. He could definitely do it. Just give him enough time. Thanos, absolutely, yeah. Batman, easily. You just gotta give him enough time. Galactus, yeah. Like,
not easily. You have to give him enough time and resources. It's not easily, and there's always a chance of his plans going wrong, and not going exactly as planned. I mean, it's not easy. He just earned and developed these skills over many years. Yeah, not only in years of training, but years he's been Batman.
Yeah, there's a little comment I just read on the screen. It says, it's Batman's social hang-ups that always alienates the people closest to him. Yeah, that's
his flaw. That's true. That's his major tragic flaw, because he is kind of socially inept. If it doesn't have anything to do with Batman or fighting crime or being Batman, then he doesn't really know how to do that.
He can be suave and sophisticated using the Bruce persona with people, but it's tough. Like, I remember the animated series, or the JLA series, where was it Wonder Woman talking to Batman about his personal life, and he's like, listen, I'm a rich kid with issues. Lots of issues.
He's basically like he's almost like Patrick Bateman, you know. He's kind and suave and likable on the outside, but on the inside he's kind of hollow. He's not really there. He's Batman.
He's broken. He's trying to keep it together, and the only way he thinks he can do it is by righting the wrong that happened to him. So no other kid grows up without parents. It's pretty. I mean, it's so obvious. I don't think we need to explain this any further.
There is an idea of a Bruce Wayne, some kind of abstraction. And there's no real Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne doesn't actually exist. He's only kind of like an entity, something illusory. And although you can hide his cold, you can hide his cold gaze, and you can shake his hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense that his lifestyle is probably comparable to yours. He simply isn't there. That's from American Psycho.
Oh.
So does that sound like it would kind of make sense to Bruce Wayne? Because if it does, then yeah, Bruce Wayne is a mask. He's not actually there. And that is Batman's tragic flaw.
I remember the joke of Pete Holmes, where it's a Batman or Superman wants to team up with Batman, and Batman's like, I have no superpowers. I'm just rich and nuts. That's it.
Money is the best superpower.
Fucking jerking themselves raw about how he's a flawless character. And
He's not a flawless character. Okay, so is he making fun of the people who are jerking him off, saying they're flawless when they're wrong, which they are?
Well, yeah, that would be wrong if they said Batman was flawless. That's incorrect. He's
Yeah.
not.
So
He's not flawless.
he's actually agreeing with us. Thank you. Okay, great.
We agree yet again.
And oh well, yeah, you're right. Fucking his parents died when they were 6. When he was 6 years old, they got shot, and it wasn't his fault at all. There are some writers that try and make it seem more like reasonable that he thinks it's his fault. Like, oh, he
Yeah, it's called guilt, a thing that Batman has a lot of.
Yeah, it messes with him.
Where do you think control freaks come from? Guilt is certainly one of those things. Worry is another one. And we can explain guilt. You could be worried about having future guilt. There's all. I mean, you can go be a deadly circle. Batman's just constantly in that mode of control. I gotta keep going. Gotta keep going. Gotta keep doing this.
was being a brat, so they left the theater early or some shit. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Oh my God! A child thinking that his parents died is his fault. How could this have happened?
It's such a common thing for children to have guilt over. Even when they, it's a common thing about children whose parents divorce. They think it's automatically their fault for some reason.
This is very identifiable. It's like, oh wow, you think a 6 or 9-year-old wouldn't first blame themselves? Of course they would.
I think it's their fault mommy and daddy aren't together anymore.
Okay, fucking 6-year-old watches his parents get shot to death, blame himself 40 years later. Nice, cool. If only that...
I had some of this guy's fans describe him as very elegant, or eloquent. So, how is he eloquent?
Well, he's outspoken, so we can hear what he's saying.
Yeah,
but he's literally bashing the idea of a child who is blaming themselves for the death of their family. It's like, okay.
That actually happens in real life, but okay.
Crippling self-esteem issue that would have led him to blame himself for that would make itself evident in any other aspect of his character, rather than literally just that one fucking thing.
That is what makes Batman Batman, okay? The death of his family. That's it. Everything else is him dedicating himself to becoming Batman.
His parents are dead. That's Batman.
It's called, I am so obsessed with the loss of my family, I'm going to seek vengeance. And instead of killing people, I'm going to right wrongs or scare the shit out of everyone who's about to commit a crime. Because he hates the people or the person who killed his family. He doesn't want to be like them.
He's not perfect, though. He has unbridled paranoia, which is why he knows how to take down everyone. That's perfect! Everyone thinks that's cool. Nobody fucking looks at Batman in the stories where he, like the fucking Dead Man Switch story, I forget what it's called, when he fucking writes out plans on how to take down the Justice League and everyone else is like, oh, wow, Batman, you went too far. No one...
It's because he's an anti-hero, in case you haven't figured this out.
He's paranoid, and he's a control freak, so of course he would have plans to take down other members of the Justice League. That makes perfect sense.
And he explains that.
And it destroys, yet again, the relationships he had socially with other heroes.
Yes.
I think they eject him after that.
Exactly. This is good stuff. We understand why Batman is doing the things he's doing. It hurts his relationships. That's a flaw.
Powerful, tragic character flaw.
There we go.
Yeah, it has flaws. Thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Comic Book Professor.
Jesus. I'm sure.
Thank you for. He brought this up. He's the one that made this example. So yeah, he brought the story as an example that perfectly highlights that Batman has very deep, powerful, and effective tragic flaws.
Yes, that makes sense. I don't know why it doesn't make sense to him, but again, he's on his rant here about Batman for whatever. We're not even supposed to be talking about Batman, but we are.
Constant contradictions. All right, one point. Here's my one point. The next point is contradicting his last point because he's trying to make a different point altogether. Awesome. It's great.
Watches that and then goes, wow, Batman, wow, you're too paranoid, Batman. Everyone thinks it's cool as shit.
I watched that and thought Batman was too paranoid. I think that was kind of the point, was to have the audience watch that and think that, wow, Batman is really paranoid. I mean, it fits his character, but he's really paranoid if he thought up these contingency plans in case the other members of the JLA revolted.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it was. And someone stole the plans and turned them into murder plans because his plans were not there to kill; they were there to subdue. So, yeah, and Batman recognizes this is my plan, but it's warped. It's like, why did this happen? How did this happen? Blah blah. Yeah, he thinks ahead. He plans ahead. He's Batman. That's what he does.
They jerk themselves off fucking raw about it.
Yeah, because, okay, this is very common in detective stories, okay? The detective plans out how to catch the criminal. They have all they're just going to pull out a new card, and they're going to show their hand at the last minute, and they're going to win the day. That's
how they're written.
That's what you do. Those are in the pulps. Those are in Agatha Christie novels.
Sherlock Holmes did that.
They're in the whole genre of detective fiction.
Like right from book one, the Study in Scarlet. That was how they got the criminal in Study in Scarlet and Sherlock Holmesian. Sherlock Holmes came up with a plan, and it played out more or less like he wanted it to.
This is normal. I mean, maybe he doesn't know detective fiction. Maybe he doesn't know Batman. He says he's a comic book guy. Okay, how could you not get Batman?
Maybe he doesn't know the pulps. Maybe they don't. I guess not, because he thinks formulas are bad inherently. So maybe not.
I don't know. It's like saying I'm an expert in Agatha Christie and I read one book. It's like, what?
All right. The problem, guys, I'm not saying you can't have good stories with these characters.
Oh, but apparently you can't.
So, you can. You absolutely can. But they are absolutely Mary Sue's.
Again, show me an example of Batman being a Mary Sue.
No, you can't have a good story with them. You can't have them being Mary Sue's and it being an excellent story, because a Mary Sue is essentially a product of bad writing.
That's what it comes down to, yes. Yeah.
Bad writing.
The pattern is one of a character that either lacks a clear purpose, like they're just there to be a character, or there's no believability behind what they're doing, which is Ray. Why is she there? She's waiting for her family, and then she's not. And then she just goes along with the rebels. Why? I don't know. She wants to know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on. She goes, sees Luke. Still doesn't know what's going on. Hey, I'm going to go try and help that guy I hate. Why? Because we had finger sex or whatever. It's like, why would you do that? What's compelling you to go near this guy? Tell us. Give us a reason. I can change him. He's like, okay. Or you could beat Luke over the head and drag him with you. And you can do both those things. Chewie can do it. Chewie can go do it for you if you're too tired or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he probably was about to anyway. And please explain how you get all those powers. Please, just give us one. Give us one reason.
If you want a non-Mary Sue superhero, I would say, like, Spider-Man's a pretty obvious one. Everyone loves Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a pretty well-done character by and large.
Okay, so Spider-Man gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and we know his personal story with his family.
Yeah, his first story, he's a jerk. He's become selfish because he's been picked on a lot. And he said, okay, I have all these powers. They picked on me, so I'm just going to become a selfish jerk and not, I'm just going to do, I'm just in it for myself. And then his uncle dies because of a criminal that he decided not to stop because he's so self-centered. And that's when he decided, okay, this is probably along the wrong track. So he has a character arc in the very first issue. And yeah, I wouldn't say Spider-Man is a Mary Sue. He's a good, well-developed character. That's why people love him. It's also why people love Batman and Superman. Because they're well-developed characters. They're fleshed out. They're just different from one another.
We know why Peter Parker is the way he is. We know why Superman is the way he is. We know why Batman is the way he is. That makes them a clearly understood character, whether you prefer the vengeance plot or whether you prefer the redemption plot with Peter Parker. We get it. This guy doesn't. Or doesn't like Batman and Superman because they're Mary Sue's by his abstract definition.
Is Vaush a Mary Sue? Yes. In order to not be a Mary Sue, you can't just not be perfect. You have to have meaningful flaws that can be narratively engaged with and affect you meaningfully. You can't just be...
Okay, so Batman leaving...
exactly. I said this exactly in my video. This is exactly why I
So he agrees with
flaws.
this. Okay, great. This is good. Good.
He agrees with us. In fact, I think I've said this in the part of the video he's already seen. So I said that Mary Sue's can have flaws. They just tend to be like flaws that don't matter, like being too pretty. I've said that specifically in the part of the video he's already seen at this point. So we agree. We agree that Spider-Man is not a Mary Sue, and that Mary Sue's not Mary Sue's, but characters need to have flaws that are meaningful and that affect the plot, affect things. And he just got done describing Ray. So this is some sort of like mental gymnastics that he's doing right here.
I think this is a good example of a hot take or a reactionary hot take. It's like
this is pretty reactionary.
Yeah.
All these arguments are inconsistent. He goes from one point and then the next point he doesn't really care if it contradicts the point he just made. He just goes from one thing to another, and it's kind of he is being very reactionary, I would say.
Whew, okay.
Handling every situation in the most effortlessly cool way imaginable. God, there are some fucking people in chat that are triggering the fuck out of me right now. Can we just...
Oh no, his own chat is triggering him. Oh my god.
His own chat is triggering.
When you are using the term triggering or verb to describe yourself, probably not a good thing.
Just go back to the video.
And more than that, why are they so despised?
He got so triggered.
Characters are made to fill roles needed to tell.
By the way, note
his own audience is triggering him so bad. It's like abruptly cancel his own rant.
It's like, oh, let's just get back to the video, guys.
This is from his mouth. These are his words. You can't handle people disagreeing with you. You can't handle people giving you opposing views. People who like my stuff give me opposing views all the time. It is fantastic. I love it. It is always delicious. That's why I make these videos. And he gets triggered by his own audience. He cuts his rant short. Okay. All right.
Notice how this video keeps answering questions it poses. Why are SJW Mary Sue's...
How dare you answer questions you pose, sir?
I'm supposed to answer a question and then just leave it. That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Just ask questions and just call it a day, like everyone else. Why?
Okay, why? I don't know. I'm the one asking the questions here. You're supposed to give me the answers.
How dare you reference material and provide evidence? Let them solve it themselves.
People do this all the time. It's not an uncommon technique. So why blah 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 blah? You see this in sales presentations. You see this in seminars. You see this in all kinds of media where people are talking about something to get you intrigued, and then because you want to know the answer to the question. It's just human nature.
Yeah, I always like the simplest one is, oh, hungry? Oh, Henry.
I'm not supposed to answer the questions I pose. That's just poor construction of an argument, I guess.
Your conclusion to your essay, sir? Oh, I thought you were going to answer that.
So bad. Why does everyone hate this? Why are these characters so despised? Fucking like that's an excellent way of like you're watching a propaganda piece, not an actual video.
Okay, wait. You're working for some political regime.
They are despised. They are despised.
And I ask a question and then you answer it. That's propaganda, sir. How dare you?
Propaganda is apparently answering a question you pose.
You can't do that. That's just wrong. That's bad form. You're changing people's minds.
Maybe not even answering it, but exploring it. I'm not even saying that I answer the question specifically. What I did was ask a question and then explore that question and come to my own conclusion. And if you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't, you don't.
Well, there's plenty of people in my videos that when I do just basic observations, they go, no, that's wrong. That's not what happened. It's like, really? Okay, well, let's watch it again. And they interpret it differently, and that's fine.
I love it. It's fantastic. I love that little the fact that it starts a conversation.
Yeah,
starts a discussion.
You could be wrong, or they could be biased, or you could be biased, or who knows? Like that's always a good thing for people to have a second opinion and to quality control your work. That's great. Yeah.
And I like how this guy doesn't think that this stream is a propaganda piece according to his own criteria. He started the stream by poisoning the well, stating my views, what my views apparently are, before apparently he watched this video. So it seems to me, the way he's acting, that he didn't watch this video to begin with, and then he just started the stream by listing everything he thinks I think, and then he watched the video.
Yeah, we should probably get him. We should probably try to get him in a stream just to see what the hell he's talking about, because I've never heard of these definitions of Mary Sue, and I wish he would show us an example of that. Because if he says Batman and Superman are clear examples, I'm like, great. Let's read a really bad comic book that has them, and we can go, oh, okay, that's what you mean. Let's add it to the list of things that are bad, so we can expand our knowledge of Mary Sue-ness. I think that would be great for everyone.
Or not an actual like media analysis video.
Kind of like casting for a play. For example, Little Red Riding Hood has Red Riding Hood as the main character, the Bad Wolf as the threat, the grandmother gives Red her motivation, and in modern tellings, the huntsman comes along to vanquish the evil wolf and save the day.
What are we talking about?
Mary Sue...
He doesn't know what we're talking about.
I guess not.
The story of Little Red Riding...
Red Riding Hood is not in a comic. What is this? What is this for?
I don't know comics.
Nonsense.
I've never seen this in a comic book before. How can you possibly understand this? What are you talking about?
Aren't born to tell a story. They're born to fulfill an author's power fantasy. And
If that was the standard by which we decided whether or not something is a Mary Sue, then you better check off fucking every fucking anime protagonist, every fucking...
Not a power fantasy, the author's power fantasy. And it's made, and I'm saying that the Mary Sue is made to do that, doesn't mean that every power fantasy is a Mary Sue. A Mary Sue is made to do this. You can have well-written power fantasies, but a lot of the times, when you have a Mary Sue character, it's to explore the author's own personal power fantasy, their own fantasy.
Right. This is slightly different than an author on board moment, where the author either comes across as the actual character, and now we see that directly with, for example, Wesley Crusher, but it could just be the author just off to the side, or sometimes the writer of the story, like J. Michael Straczynski was in one of his last episodes. Like he just threw himself in there. Or there's a soapbox moment where he's actually literally telling the audience this is what's going on. So it's different than the Mary Sue.
There's always that Thor comic, that female Thor comic. When they came up with Lady Thor, there's that one incident where Lady Thor walks up to a female villain, and the female villain decides, "Oh, you're a female superhero. Like I'm a female villain. So I'm going to go ahead and surrender myself. I'm going to have my accomplice surrender myself. And we're just going to go to jail. I think it'd be good for us." Well, this is literally what happened. This is not a fan fiction. It is a published Marvel comic. When they published Lady Thor, a female villain just surrenders herself. It stops her crime in the middle of whatever she's doing and surrenders herself to prison because Thor is now a woman, and they wanted to have like that girl power connection. That's a Mary Sue.
I think this was the same comic where they have to address her as Mighty Thor, not Lady Thor, I believe. So you can't specify her gender. And the original Thor doesn't call himself Thor; he calls himself Odin's son.
Odin's son. Yeah, Thor is not a title. That's the biggest thing that this is so dumb. Thor is not a title. It's his name. It's the man's name.
It's complicated. Let's just say we don't quite get it, but it's complicated up in Asgard. We don't ask questions.
Action TV show protagonist, every fucking comic book protagonist, better yeet that shit right out the window, because power fantasies are the reasons why like 98% of video game
authors power
it's right there.
Authors.
It's in
big black letters, sir.
Authors power fantasy. Okay, there's a difference between I want to write a power fantasy for boys. I don't want to write a power fantasy for 16 to 18-year-old girls. I want to write a power fantasy for politicians. I want to write a power fantasy for dock workers. This is the author's power fantasy that usually creates the Mary Sue. And it's not, like I said before, just because it's a power fantasy doesn't mean the character's a Mary Sue. It's a Mary Sue that is born out of these authors' power fantasy. I think I just said that in the video he just watched. And it's written there in black letters, fulfill author's power fantasy. I know you like comic books. We could try reading. I mean,
characters are created. Easy Easy! Video game characters are created to fulfill power fantasies first and made interesting characters second.
How do you know this, sir? Give me an example. My God. Video games, all video games, really. All video games are a power fantasy. And
Yeah,
then
I would like some examples, please.
and then there are stories later. Is that how games are developed? I don't think so. I've gone through game dev school. We come up with ideas first and storylines first, and then we implement what these characters are. Like we design a character first, and he's like scars or whatever. It's like, where'd he get that scar? Oh, so you got it from here. Okay, let's give him a superpower that does that. All right, cool.
I got these scars.
That's why every single fucking action story has the exact same mid-30s, like short brown hair swept to the side, grizzled fucking square jaw, bristly.
Yeah, action movies in that sense, that's a male's power fantasy. Not an author's power fantasy, but a male power fantasy.
Let's be clear. Not every power or not every action story is like that. He's just describing.
Not every action hero is like that at all.
No,
but even if that were the case, not that's a male's power fantasy. The man's power fantasy is to be this. Watch this action guy who's really good at fighting and shooting, take down some villains. That's a male's power fantasy. Doesn't necessarily mean it's Mary Sue. I'm saying author's power fantasy, and that's why I wrote it down for you to see. I mean, it's right there.
Whew.
A fucking 5 o'clock shadow look. Muscular, but doesn't try too hard. They have to be really ripped, but they can't be going to the gym. That's too much.
What is he talking about? What? Give us an example of what you're talking about here. Just like, is it like the movies from the '80s where it's just all action and
Yeah, I guess he's referencing movies from the '80s, like Arnold, and when Bruce Willis had hair, he had short brown hair.
I mean, this is like sort of the high quality B movies of the '80s, I guess, like Cobra and Commando and all those other weird ones. Like they're fun, but we know they're not, high art or anything of narrative significance. They're just action movies.
Yeah.
What's
Author's
wrong
power
with that?
fantasy. Again, author's power fantasy. He's going off to male power fantasy, not author power fantasy.
Much effort. They have to be effortlessly fucking cool. They have
Really? Okay. Where is this list coming from? I don't know.
to be effortlessly strong and physically adept. Sometimes they can do the
Well, he really hates when characters are physically strong and ripped and capable. I don't know why. He seems to hate these characters, these male characters who are white, for one, because he keeps mentioning how white they are. And second of all, he hates them being like ripped and muscular, and he seems to have like a grudge against these people the way he's talking.
Like, what's wrong with like The Princess Bride, which is a high adventure story, medieval times setting, a little bit of magic in there. Wesley isn't ripped. He gets incapacitated for half the movie. He's totally defenseless. He overcomes his challenges, but it's.
Keep in mind this whole point that he's making is completely moot because he's talking about power fantasy in general. I'm saying author's power fantasy, and again, this is why I wrote it down and put it on screen in gigantic letters.
It's very specific because when you talk about writing in general, I think that's what he was running off. The idea of just in general that most stories are power fantasies. Possibly, sure, you could argue that, but you're not saying that. So it's once you put an adjective next to a noun or a pronoun next to a noun, it's just like, come on, just read the words.
oh, my back, after like in a particularly daring fucking jump or leap or little fucking trapeze trick that would kill most people.
I can only think of Batman when he gets his back broken by Bane and then he gets repaired by a magical chiropractor man in the cell.
Some people in his own chat are saying you're wrong about Batman and Spider-Man or Batman and whatever being a Mary Sue. It's a guy who got triggered by his own chat. And there's a lot of people in his own chat are saying, actually, you're kind of wrong there, because they know how wrong he is, because he's completely wrong about most things. He's right about something, but the only things that he's right about are the stuff we apparently agree on.
Which is strange coming from him, because I thought he was going to, give us examples of...
Which you're debunking. It's just, you're wrong because Superman is boring and he's ripped.
He's so boring. How could he possibly be good at anything?
And then he goes on and saying, yeah, he has flaws, and yeah, this is a flaw, but they don't count because that would make me wrong.
He's so perfect, he's boring. It's like, yeah, he would be if he
He
was.
gave Superman and Batman are both examples he gave as Mary Sue's, and then the longer he talked about them, the more non-Mary Sue-ish they became, and eventually he admitted that they did have significant character flaws. And then he got triggered by his own audience that he just decided to end that rant because he was wrong.
Yeah. Well, we'll just give him to that because he's still going with it. So we're gonna see where else he goes because he's also misinterpreted your sentence here. So
I'm gonna mute myself for a second.
oh, sorry. Well, then let's continue without you.
You're wrong about Spider-Man or Batman as Mary Sue's. I said Spider-Man isn't a Mary Sue, you dumb fuck.
Oh, hey, be nice.
Triggered again. He just can't stand anyone stepping up to him and saying, "No, I disagree with you."
This is your audience, sir.
He gets triggered again. He can't handle it.
Let's be nice to the people who actually are giving time to this fellow.
Oh, this is great. This is a wonderful gift Vaush has given me. This is fantastic.
Oh, please.
Is Master Chief a Mary Sue? Is Master Chief even a fucking character? He just runs around in the power suit and says shit in cutscenes. He barely even says anything. Vaush is describing Solid Snake. Yes, Solid Snake is also a power fantasy. Most video game characters are power fantasies. That's why they exist. Most video games exist to fill power fantasies. You guys realize...
Okay. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I don't like these big generalized statements. They're forms of escapism like any kind of media is, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a power fantasy. You could say that RPGs are inevitably power fantasies, but they don't have to be. The deeds you do, let's say the Mass Effect series, doesn't make you extremely powerful. You just happen to do amazing things as a result of scenarios, not as a result of the game mechanics. So... it depends on the game. It really does. It depends on the story.
Again, he's arguing against a point I never made. I said author's power fantasy. I didn't say that the Mary Sue character is always an author's power fantasy, but they tend to be made to fulfill an author's power fantasy.
We would have to address an individual author and ask him, hey, is this your idea of a fantasy? And he'd be like, well, no. Like, oh, okay. Or if it is, then it'd be great. Give us an example of this. Again, he's arguing against the point, so it's like, all right, well, how does this fit into the question? It's like, well, you've sort of missed the point, but I just wish we could talk to him about that because I think he would have stopped and said, oh, right, sorry, and then give us an example. I think that would have been once we cleared this up with him. I think that would have.
Yeah, probably. I doubt it.
That shit, right? You realize that when you play a video game, the visceral, the satisfying, ooh, I did.
Why are we talking about video games? Do we know yet?
Because he still thinks I'm talking about every power fantasy.
Okay.
Like I'm saying that okay, Mary Sue's are power fantasies. Not an author's power fantasy. Like I typed up on the screen big letters, but just a power fantasy.
Okay.
All Mary Sue's are power fantasies.
Whoa!
I think I broke him.
What just happened? I'm not going to rewind that. I'm a bit scared now.
I think I broke him.
When you do that shit and the people all fucking die and explode and shit, that's a power fantasy you're fulfilling.
Oh, is it? Really? I mean, it's just opponents. It could, maybe if you launch a grenade or something, I don't know.
I mean, the action movies are power fantasies. They're male power fantasies, and not necessarily the authors.
I mean, game mechanics are game mechanics. You're still taking out soldiers with a gun. You're still flying around, bombing things.
Yeah, I mean, games where you shoot and everything. And there's like the Call of Duty. Those are power fantasies, but they're not necessarily the author's power fantasy. They are the player's power fantasy. But again, that's not what I said. I didn't say Mary Sue's are just a power fantasy. I'm saying that the author.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put Super Mario Brothers in that context. I'm just like I can't really. I don't get. It's like adventure games. Are they power fantasies? Probably not. Puzzle games. Like shoot 'em up games. I don't think so. Like he's again a broad brush. Just don't like that definition.
I mean, video games tend to be playing, at least modern video games, tend to be playing to someone's power fantasy. And like, yeah, you kind of are a Mary Sue, especially like in Skyrim. You are pretty Mary Sue-ish. It's just that it doesn't really matter because of the story. I'm not playing Skyrim for the story necessarily. I'm playing it for other reasons.
Yeah, but then you have to figure out the actual mechanics, like say the skill nature of Skyrim, for example. You can just do anything. You just have to keep doing it to get better at it. You can just retain all that knowledge. Like I guess you can say that was because of the static nature of growth. Is just you just keep getting stronger and stronger, and that's the problem with RPGs or RPG balancing. So you could even argue in a game, if it is a power fantasy, it's probably a bad game as a result of that.
I mean, to be clear, an author's power fantasy is not an author writing to the power fantasy or fantasy to an audience. It's an author sitting down and saying, I want to have a character that's in the world, I don't know, of Naruto or Sonic. And then having their character be like the greatest and be like as fast as Sonic, or be in love with, I don't know, whatever the female character is that is of note or whatever. Or falling in love with the female love interest in Naruto or whatever, and being the master of all the jutsus and stuff like that. So just because the author's power fantasies, isn't necessarily Mary Sue, but they tend to come from an author's power fantasy, which is why Mary Sue's come from fan fiction. That's where they were born, was fan fiction. That's why.
I think that's a better understanding. I'm still having a problem because when you do game development, you train and you do demos and what have you. It's like it's more like an idealized world that you want to play around in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess you do get a certain power high for defeating the enemy. But I just can't see that with half the games I've played. So I don't know.
In your day-to-day life are weak and ineffectual, and you're not going to get most of what you want, and you're confronted by a myriad of problems that are far too grand and structural for you to ever meaningfully challenge them.
Really?
Well, how do you know?
I've had some pretty amazing weeks these past 3 weeks. I've been solving problems left, right, and center. I've been having all this free time at work.
Yeah, I mean, this is not everyone out there is weak and ineffectual, good sir.
You do something after 10 years, you get pretty good at it. So
maybe you should find better friends or something. It's not everyone out there.
Find a better vocation, I would argue, and get good at it. That's life, man. That's how it goes.
I guess this kind of plays into the fact that he seems to be angry at all these people who have earned things like Batman. This well-developed and physically perfect, and
he's a Mary Sue because he tried hard. Okay.
Yeah, he's a Mary Sue because he worked for his stuff. I don't know. Oh, look at him. He's so handsome and physically perfect. Therefore, he's a Mary Sue because he's boring. First of all, that completely contradicts what you said in the beginning. What a Mary Sue is, that they're narratively correct. I think we might do a part 2 on this because this guy is so utterly wrong.
We're gonna cut off in about an hour because life.
2.5 hour stream already, and we're only 20 minutes in.
Yeah. You have to remember his original video was 3 hours, but for whatever reason he didn't clip out.
It was like half nothing.
Yeah, something happened with YouTube, and this was a recut, so that's good.
But if you sit down and play a fucking video game, you are now at the center of a universe, and that universe is designed to make you feel gratified when you overcome the challenges set in front of you. This is a power fantasy, okay?
Great. So are books, so are movies, so is TV. It's, again, same idea. One's interactive, one's not. Okay.
He's going on and on about a power fantasy, even though I didn't mention it.
Yeah, even though he's completely misunderstood the point. He just keeps going on.
Completely missed the point of what I just said, even though I literally... Not figuratively speaking, but I literally spelled it out for you, and you missed the point.
It happens.
Okay? That's what a power fantasy is. So if we're describing a Mary Sue as a character that fulfills an author's power fantasy...
he used it! He used the term, fulfills an author's power fantasy.
Power fantasy. Okay, so he did read it. So what's this whole rant you just did about?
I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't say power fantasy. I said author's power fantasy. Did you not know the difference? You know what an author is? the author's power fantasy.
Because when you specify author in the story context, and then you start talking about video games, you then have to say, am I talking to the designer of the gameplay or the writer of the story? Is there a writer to the story? Is there a story worth talking about? What fantasy are in power are you referring to? Like that would be the next question.
And maybe Metal Gear Solid is a power fantasy because it was largely controlled by Kojima to some extent.
Sure, okay, we can go with that, where he's like the producer, director, game designer. Sure, we can go with that. Sure, okay.
But Snake isn't a Mary Sue. I mean, people have gone on and on about how terrible the writing is in Metal Gear Solid. I kind of disagree, but that I would argue is a author's power fantasy. But it was written well in that instance. Well, relatively well. Well enough because Snake has flaws and everything.
It's corny as hell. You gotta admit, it's just the corniest. Yeah. Like if I see,
I think that's why people love it because how corny and cheesy it is. It's just so shameless. It's shamelessly over the top.
It's shamelessly Japanese. That's true. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's part of its charm. It's part of its charm.
And we're gonna have to go way back in our standards because that you're wrapping a lot of characters up in that set of definitions. Vaush, seriously, is there any DC character you don't think is a Mary Sue? DC characters are well known for being poorly written. This has been a joke for decades.
Okay, really?
What? Okay, he's obviously, with a claim like that, he has to be coming up with some sort of examples.
Yeah, the most famous character in all comic book history is Batman.
DC is known for icons. DC is known for having their characters be icons, not badly written or Mary Sue's. They're icons. They're paragons. They are. Whereas we have Marvel, their heroes are more relatable. They have flaws.
Yeah.
DC has icons, and if you can hear Ethan Van Sciver talk on this because he's worked for both. And when he went over to DC, they told him no. This is he tried to do something I think with the Green Lantern, and then they told him no because Green Lantern wouldn't do this. Green Lantern has to be heroic. That's what a paragon is. That's what an icon is. That's why DC is known for icons because their heroes are not as relatable. They don't have as many things like alcoholism or anything like that you might see in a Marvel character. But DC has characters that live up to the ideals of being a hero. They're morally just. They fight bad guys. They help good guys. They do the right thing when it's toughest. That's why a DC hero is so different than a Marvel hero. They're not known for being poorly written. They're known for being icons and paragon. This is me, a prose reader, not necessarily adept in comics, telling Mr. Comics Professor here. And this information is supported and corroborated by Ethan Van Sciver, who has decades of insider knowledge and experience in the industry. This is exactly what he said. Well, not exactly, but this is the sentiment.
I'm just reading some of the comments. He's not saying power fantasies are Mary Sue's. He disagrees with that. Vaush, you want to play some games that aren't power fantasies?
Do some people in the chat understand?
It's like, maybe you might be a bit wrong. I mean, I occasionally glance over to my chat. I'm like, okay, guys are saying pretty common things. Like, all right, good. But if I ever get anything wrong, they'll tell me. They'll speak it out. So
yeah, that's what the chat does, and this is what his chat is doing. He's just getting incredibly triggered by them.
Marvel characters are the ones where they put some effort into giving them serious character flaws. What are the character flaws for DC heroes? Let's think. Superman. Sometimes he encounters a.
Oh, he has to do the voice. And anyone who defends these iconic characters and gives them flaws.
Yeah, and he already went through the flaws and he found none. So let's see what he comes up with.
Yeah, see what he comes up with.
Problem, he cannot punch. Batman.
Maybe if he loses his powers, I think. I mean, there's lots of stories of him losing his powers, so he can't be Superman anymore. All right, I'm with you so far.
Perfect in every way.
Batman is perfect in every way, really.
He's not perfect in every way. Not even when Frank Miller wrote him was he perfect in every way. He was more perfect, but he wasn't perfect in every way.
Yeah. That's if you give him enough time, he might be able to solve a problem in the best way possible.
Yeah, well, you say that about a lot of people. I mean, that's basically the whole entire job description of a scientist.
Find a solution, yeah.
But paranoid, but in a way that's super cool and makes all the teenagers wish they were as cool as him and as edgy. Wonder Woman, basically flawless, sometimes awkward in human society, right?
Did you just call a woman, a female character, a Mary Sue?
Well, that's just too easy. I mean, it's...
Mr. Progressive here just called a female character a Mary Sue. Not even I did that. I don't think Wonder Woman is a Mary Sue. He did. Me, the big bad literature devil misogynist, didn't call Wonder Woman a Mary Sue.
I like this comment. Shitty writing does not equal Mary Sue, you dum-dum.
Actually, I mean, I think it technically doesn't. That's where Mary Sues do come from.
They come from bad... They are a negative term that denotes bad writing. And it's a basket term. There's a whole bunch of properties that make this character bad. I guess if the story didn't focus on them, then it'd just be this sort of dark part of the movie or the book you're reading or watching. But it's not it's like Deus Ex Machina. That's never a good thing unless that's part of the narrative, meaning there are gods amongst us, so it's not unexpected or unbelievable that gods can do things at the end of a story to resolve a plot.
Yeah.
But Mary Sue's I've never seen be good.
They're never.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I really can't.
They might have talents and skills, but doesn't mean they're Mary Sue, which is why I say that in the video.
Yeah, and again, it's a big basket term. We know that Anakin was partially Mary Sue and has some Mary Sue traits. We know that Luke has partial Mary Sue traits, but it's on a scale, and it's how much can you digest before it's like, oh, this is stupid, this is unbelievable. So, I don't think people ever had that problem with Luke. And I don't think if Luke was like Lisa or some female, the effect would have been the same. It wouldn't have really bothered me. Like replace the actors for Mark Hamill and Leia's actress. Swap them around, and they had the same lines, exactly the same personalities as their previous counterpart. It would still work.
Yeah, if Luke was a woman, yeah, it would still work because she had to work for things. Female Luke would have had to still go through the journey of becoming a hero. Luke didn't start off with the ability to literally control people's minds. He didn't start off with that ability from almost day one. That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean,
he could fly a ship pretty good. That's his only real talent in the first movie. He kind of just gets dragged along. He wants to go on an adventure, but he doesn't really help any. He kind of bumbles his way through things and barely manages to survive because his mentor sacrifices himself. Han Solo and Chewbacca are skilled veterans of this sort of thing, and Princess Leia has been fighting this war for years.
Yeah, and Han Solo effectively saves Luke.
Yeah, if Luke was by himself and captured, he probably would have ended up dead or just remained captured. He didn't have any of the skills needed or knowledge of the Force required to save himself.
Green Lantern, also flawless?
Really? Okay. That part
he's going to say all of these people are Mary Sue's because they're all paragons.
It's just like Green Lantern gets captured. He's got a bit of a personality, an ego. He's cocksure. I mean, these all depending on which version of Green Lantern. He's not perfect.
I guess the white Green Lantern.
That's really a dumb of a take. Video games aren't movies or novels. They can be like those, but they aren't. It's a different medium. You're talking about different things here. Master Chief is obviously a character in the expanded universe of the books, but in the context of the Bungie games, he is just a vehicle for the player to experience the world changing around them. Yeah, he's an avatar. He is a...
Yeah, honestly speaking, I would like to get this guy in the stream. Maybe not to exactly talk about this, but talk about like Star Trek and stuff. I think we would agree on comics or at least find some common ground on comics and Star Trek and all that stuff. Because he seems like a Trekkie too. And but I don't care if he's a communist or whatever.
We don't know if he is, but it sounds like he's.
It sounds like he
doesn't like capitalism. So the logical assumption is, I guess the hip thing is socialism these days. So.
But this is a lot more bearable than Lava Chan.
Oh God, Lava Chan's he's a special case.
At least this guy is trying to make points.
Yeah, but
doing
he's
it badly. He's
he is
overlooking points and stuff.
he is the reactionary in this regard because he's just forgetting what he reacted to.
He's just reacting. He's reacting and react. He's the reactionary, but he's going to be like he's the untouchable intellectual.
Yeah, when you have one take, not the clearest concept. You really got to know what you're talking about before you dedicate yourself to doing one takes. When you make a video like yours, you actually plan it and write it out and edit it and make sure you don't have any errors, etc. So let's just keep going. You're gonna have another half hour, guys. We're gonna call it a night, but we'll be back tomorrow.
We're probably going to have a part, 1 and 2,
2, 3, 4, depending on how long we go. Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. It wouldn't be so bad if we didn't just utterly miss this point of power fantasy. Even though he didn't technically, but he just didn't understand or something, I guess. And he's using up a lot of minutes going over something I never said.
Yeah.
Was a douchebag, but the Black Green Lantern, who we all prefer, is a cool duderino, right?
Okay, so the black guy.
John Stewart. Is that John Stewart, right?
Is he? I have no idea. I haven't read any comics with him. I don't know.
John Stewart, I think, is the Black Green Lantern. I like him about better. He has a lot more personality than Cal Jordan. As far as I've seen, is pretty bland. John Stewart is, to me, a superior Green Lantern. He's a lot more interesting.
Okay.
Damn, are there any fucking DC... The Flash? The Flash is just a fucking jokester. What problems do he have? Oh, goofy Flash? Well, still fucking handsome rip dude. Still...
Didn't he want to get married and he had to deal with all the lifestyle changes? And
I don't know anything about the Flash. I just know he's one of these wisecrackers. I know his name is Barry. That's about
There's
it,
a few
though.
flavors of Flash that's out there. Yeah, I don't know too much either, so I can't say. But
I'm not a comic book guy. So
I
don't know about
actually never read The Flash either. I'm mostly a Marvel guy from the 80s and 90s. And some of the DC comics, the Elseworlds, and all of Neil Gaiman that he did. Lots of manga in the 90s. So it's been a while. But I've read some Superman, I've read some Batman, I've read the Mantle of the Bat series, I've read the Azrael series. So I know those. It's been a while.
Neil Gaiman always support. I always say that you should read Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman is he's a master of his craft.
Gaiman, Alan Moore, Frank Miller,
All those guys.
Mouse.
Frank Miller, not his recent stuff so much. He's kind of gone off the deep end. He kind of seems to have lost his ability to write interestingly, as far as I'm concerned. But his old stuff, like Dark Knight Returns and
Batman
Ronin,
Year One, all good stuff.
Those are top notch. And man, the dialogue in Sin City.
Oh, that is a walking movie. If you ever read that,
I'm not going to go into that because I could talk about that forever. But the dialogue in Sin City is fantastic.
It is the pulpiest pulp you've ever read.
It's A++. It is poetry. It is a flower made into words.
Fucking effortlessly solves all neurotic character problems you might expect to develop from the incredibly traumatic conditions surrounding being a superhero. Nope, you just get to be the goof boy. The Teen Titans? Teen Titans are pretty good, but the Teen Titans, well, when everyone thinks of Teen...
Why you didn't just make a video of him talking about comics? He's barely watched my video by this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Granted, it's only been 22 minutes, but he's just going on and on about comic books and superheroes.
We're still on the point of power fantasy, so...
the point he missed.
Yeah.
This is still going on about debunking a point I never made, so this is fantastic.
Teen Titans, they think of the TV show. They don't really think of the comics because the TV show was so essential to so many people's upbringings, I would say the TV show did a pretty good job. Yeah. Actually, no. They specifically discussed the character flaws of this. So, let's look for an example, okay? So, I'm actually thinking, what are the character flaws in Superman, Batman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern? I can't think of any. I really fucking can't.
I'm sure they have them. I just that we've already listed the two from the big two, so I don't.
We already went over those
Yeah.
those flaws
I mean,
extensively.
I mean, it's not hard, dude. If you're the comic guy, go read a Flash comic and figure it out. It can't be that difficult. Get the most popular Flash comic and read it.
He says he likes Batman and Superman in some stories. So has he ever thought to himself why he likes them?
Yeah.
Why he likes those stories with them in it? It's because of these different aspects. Usually because something interesting happens, and that's usually because either there's high tension or something about their character is being questioned or challenged. And those are usually aspects of a good story. And so people tend to like The Killing Joke. It explores the tension between Batman and Joker. And pretty much every single famous comic book story, has these elements in it, and that's why people like it. If they were Mary Sue's, then Batman would have walked in to Arkham Asylum and found Joker missing, and would immediately have caught him because he knew exactly where he would be and all that stuff. So everything would be bending to Batman's needs. So that wouldn't be very interesting. So you can't really have him be a Mary Sue in The Killing Joke, or else The Killing Joke would be...
There's a certain aspect to the Batman Gambit or Gambits in general. It's like, oh, this is all going according to plan. It's like, yes, but then there's a twist that they didn't expect, or timing that they didn't expect, like with Batman, and I'm trying to remember this plot line with it. It's like when to jump off a building, that sort of thing. But it's not perfect. There are mistakes that made. Batman breaks some ribs. All these things happen. So he's not 100% perfect in a lot of stories. And if he was, it wouldn't be very interesting.
There are like some really fucking like, oh well, Batman's parents are shot. I don't give a fuck. Irrelevant. Okay, but
Batman's parents being shot are, again, the core of Batman. So
I don't care if this guy cares about Batman's parents being shot. It's not his status as a Mary Sue doesn't hinge on you caring about his character development. It's still character development. It's still flaws. It is. I guess it doesn't meet your draconian standards of him. I don't even know what his standards are.
No, we don't. It changes. I mean, he described Mary Sue off the top of his head. I was like, that's probably not accurate.
I mean, the only hero he said so far, or given an example, as not a Mary Sue, is Peter Parker, who is this scrawny, nerdy, like thin, not very muscular guy. Everyone else who has muscles and perfect physiques and is handsome and all that stuff, those are obviously Mary Sue's, I guess.
Yeah, but then Spider-Man gets muscles, so
yeah, then Spider-Man gets muscles. I guess that means he's a Mary Sue.
I don't know.
You can't be masculine and be a good character, I guess.
now you think, but let me think now about the Teen Titans as they're presented in the TV show, okay? So Robin is neurotic and overconfident because he is simultaneously trying to evoke Batman's legacy, but is very aware of the fact that he's not capable of doing so.
Robin in the Teen Titans TV show has pretty much the same exact flaws as Batman. He's controlling, he's a control freak. There's even a storyline in the television show of Teen Titans where he becomes Red X and doesn't tell his own team because he doesn't trust them. Okay? He has the same exact flaws, but for some reason, this makes Robin not a Mary Sue. But Batman having these same flaws, he just discounts those. Okay. I have no idea what his standards are.
Robin's good, Batman bad. All right, we gotcha.
They have the same flaws, but one is not a Mary Sue and the other one is for
I guess
reasons.
the sidekick, because he's designated as a sidekick, therefore he can't be a Mary Sue because he's never going to be as good as Batman.
And the show is good. The Teen Titans show is good. So I agree that he's not a Mary Sue, but I also disagree that Batman is not a Mary Sue because Batman isn't a Mary Sue.
Imagine there's like a Ray, like a child Ray or a person like Ray in the next movie. It's like, oh yeah, she's not a Mary Sue. It just does everything that Ray does. Okay.
At least not yet. Raven.
Not yet. What does that mean? How is he going to eventually become a Mary Sue? How does that even work?
I mean, Robin in that show he's pretty capable. He has all the gadgets that Batman does. He can kick, he can flip, he can fight.
But
Yeah,
how
I think
he-
the only thing that he doesn't have is the same experience, and he doesn't weigh as much.
Yeah, but how exactly does he become a Mary Sue? That's sort of, I've never seen a character develop into one. It's always just the starting point. They're ready.
I think, according to him, a Mary Sue is a character that I'm saying is not. He thinks a character. He still thinks a Mary Sue is someone that's over capable and really talented. But we know that how Robin developed into the character he becomes. Again, he's saying that despite whether you earn it or not, if you have muscles and you're skilled and really good at what you do, you're a Mary Sue, which is not the case.
It's such a limited perspective of what a Mary Sue is. Like, you're literally just forgetting the definition and the various personas of Mary Sue, the various types of Mary Sue. It's strange.
I even give you a different example, a different flavor of Mary Sue in this video. I think I used a copycat Sue. I think it's the,
Oh yeah,
the
okay.
example I
Let's see if we get that far tonight.
Obviously, she has like trouble controlling her emotions and dealing with people, interpersonal issues with her and other men.
You know who else has trouble controlling his emotions? Superman. His whole thing is controlling his emotions and his morality.
Yeah, in Smallville, the heat vision comes from his arousal, how physically aroused he is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I know it's a different take on because the storyline is there's a hot substitute teacher in his biology class, and they're showing a video on like sex in the animal kingdom, and the projector just starts lighting on fire.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So what happens? He talks to his dad about this, and he sets
Well,
up. Yeah, I know, it's just funny. He talks to his dad. He's like, "Dad, something's happened to me," and he sets up a scarecrow in the field, and he starts practicing lighting it on fire, and it's this really funny shot of his dad walking out to go see Martha, and you see Clark in the next scene. He's like looking at the scarecrows on fire, and he's like, "Yeah!"
So every time he uses the heat vision in the show, he's actually thinking of like naked Lois.
He's getting excited. He's getting
Think
aroused. Yeah.
some porn he saw. So I'm never gonna look away Superman again.
I always wondered like how they could turn that on. Like, what was the muscle group that would allow, like Cyclops. Like Cyclops always has his beams turned on, right?
Yeah, so wear glasses. And stuff.
Yeah, so he has to. That doesn't make sense to me. But with Superman, it's like, is there like a muscle group in your eyes that you're aware of that acutely? Like, how does that work? So they turned it into arousal. I thought that's okay. Yeah, that's actually believable. I could.
That'll work.
Just that you got to be careful. You got to be really careful.
Now when I see Superman use his heat vision, it was like, okay, he's thinking of porn right now, isn't he? He's thinking,
Well,
he gets
really emotional when he starts blasting heat blasts. So it's kind of in the comics, he's like really violent. He's like, "Arr," you know?
Yeah, maybe it's emotion, not necessarily arousal. Maybe it's a strong emotion. So,
yeah, maybe.
Not necessarily thinking of
Could be
maybe
anything. He's like,
I'm recalling his last Pornhub session
Oh.
to activate his heat beams.
yeah.
Members of the cast are like a running theme throughout the entirety of the series. Starfire is fucking autistic and has no idea what's going on ever at any time all around her. And even though she plays it like blissful ignorance most of the time, sometimes
She's not autistic. She's an outsider. What show were you watching? She's alien, mainly because she's an alien. So she has different like methods. She has different thoughts. She has different mentalities and ideologies, and she's culturally different. You know who else is kind of like that? Wonder Woman. She comes from an island where there's just women. It's just an Amazonian ruled location, and then she comes to the regular world, and she's a complete outsider too. But for some reason, these same flaws that he's saying that make Starfire not a Mary Sue. So for some reason, Wonder Woman has these flaws that he's saying makes you a non-Mary Sue, and for some reason, Wonder Woman is still a Mary Sue. So again, what are her standards?
Yeah, we need a solid definition here. I mean, because it's a nebulous term anyway, but you have to actually state one you're arguing with, or else we can't understand what he's talking about. It's just
There's a reason I spend 6 minutes of my video defining a Mary Sue. There's a reason for that, okay?
the fact that Starfire is an alien should explain everything. We shouldn't have to. It's like, obviously, she doesn't know what's going on. She just has that weird power where she could speak the language by kissing, but it's like, That's it.
Yeah, I just know the show Starfire. I don't really care for what I've heard of her characterization in the comics.
It very obviously hurts her. She feels dejected. Cyborg has insecurity issues.
There we go. Batman has a bunch of personal flaws where he creates the sporadic friction between himself and those close to him. It's only really cool in the toxicity masculine way. We see that from him in some cases. What?
It's like he likes the character, therefore, his definition of Mary Sue seems to be what his fans think my definition of Mary Sue is. Characters I like and characters I don't like. Also, I think his fans are the ones that are saying that my definition of Mary Sue are women and people of color. So even though I critique Wesley Crusher and Anakin Skywalker, and usually when I bring those people out, they don't respond anymore. It's like, okay, you obviously didn't watch a video. You watched someone else's take on my video.
They interpret it in a certain way, and they saw what they wanted to see and then just ran with it, which is pretty much what this guy did.
I mean, try watching the video instead of watching for things to be outraged by. Then you might not miss these rather clear and apparent points.
Because he doesn't really like the fact that he's given up half of his body to be a machine, and he doesn't like the fact that the physical limitations placed on him are limited by technology rather than like willpower. I remember there was a very good episode.
I like this comment. Starfire has autism. The next comment, I'll laugh my ass off.
She hot though.
But Solid Snake has all the dominant genes. Actually, he doesn't. He has all the recessive genes.
Yeah, Solid Snake has dominant genes, but for some reason, in the context of the world, recessive genes make you stronger. I'm not really sure how that works. Kojima's not. He's not known. Like, don't hold Kojima to like, and this is.
Yeah, no. The story was that the brother was aware that they were les enfants terribles, and he thought that he was the recessive gene holder, but it gets revealed later that's actually Snake that has the recessive gene. So we see Snake as that guy who just pushes himself, who has this sort of willpower. That's why in Torture he's basically just a soldier, but he can take the hit. Like he's tough. And that was sort of a trait that he learned from his dad. I don't know if you want to take the same Torture scene where he loses an eye, but he's still they're tough sons of guns, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean they are. I mean, Metal Gear Solid is known for these people who go over the top, far and beyond what you would expect normal people to do. The boss being a great example. I really like the boss. I love her characterization. I love her tragic story.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
MGS3 is probably my favorite in the whole series, but that's also the campiest, silliest, most ridiculous. Like,
that's probably why I love it. I mean, it's part of its charm. The only thing I would change, the only thing I probably would change is that I kind of, now this is probably going to get a lot of hate from me from the Metal Gear Solid franchise and anyone who doesn't like voice actors because of the political opinions, but I really like Mary McGlynn, the voice actress. I would have liked her being the voice of the boss. In context, she is the one who voices the Major and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'd like her. I like her voice. She's like, it's a very strong, like, authoritative voice, but it's also can be like soft and feminine. So she's like a female Stephen Bloom, whatever.
Oh, I see.
I would like her to be for her to have voiced the boss, but it's the minor nitpick. It's still fantastic.
Brother, yeah, it's crazy over the top language in those games.
That's great.
Chop your arm off. You're a new person. Okay.
Episode about that. And Beast Boy is a fucking spaz. These are characters I can think of actual flaws. Beast Boy isn't a spaz in the same.
Well, hold on. You just said Beast Boy and Flash have the same exact personality. They are the jokester. They are the comedian of the group. But for some reason now, they both have this neuroses sort of point going on. They have the same exact personality. So, and it's because Flash is kind of inferior. He has that inferiority complex because all he does is run really fast. Where he's in a team with Batman, who has all these gadgets and knowledge, and he's very intelligent, and Wonder Woman, who is basically like a female Superman who can't fly, or unless sometimes she can, and then Superman, and then all the other Justice League people.
Wasn't there a Flash story called the Flashpoint Paradox where he goes back in time to save his mom?
he becomes one of the most important people in the universe because people think he's so unimportant, which is why it becomes such an interesting storyline because all of a sudden the universe revolves around Flash.
I know, but I'm quite sure that's a pretty big flaw if he causes the destruction of an entire timeline because he wanted his mommy to live. And
That's pretty neurotic.
It's
pretty
like,
neurotic.
okay.
It's selfishness, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty selfish. And then he screws up all these lives and everyone else dies.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal.
So again, it's okay when Teen Titans do it. That makes them
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, like these stories. For some reason, he doesn't mind it if they're like ersatz Superman or ersatz Batman, like the younger versions of them. He's okay with that. But if it's the actual main characters, and I think it's just because he doesn't know them, and I don't know them very well either. But they can't all be garbage. They can't all be Mary Sue's. I think that would have been picked up like a long time ago, and the editor would have been, "What the hell is this crap? This character hasn't done anything."
More than likely.
Yeah. But nowadays we have Disney and they just pump out whatever because it's going to sell.
Same way the Flash is a spaz because the Flash still like effortlessly still incredibly powerful, still.
Oh, he's trying to justify it. Okay.
Okay, so
I think he's finally made the mental connection that crap, I've been saying these aren't Mary Sue characters, even though they have the same exact flaws of the characters.
So the character flaws are the same, but because the Flash is a speedster, he's Mary Sue. Really?
He just effortlessly does it, and Beast Boy effortlessly changes.
Even though the Flash's powers are more explained than Beast Boy's, and more believable.
Yeah, I don't know what Beast Boy is. He's as far as I've known in the show, he's a green guy that can change shape.
He's a polymorph. Yeah, he just changes shape, which is a little different than moving very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Flash just runs really fast. That's just about it.
Like he was just born that way. It's like, okay, I guess Beast Boy was born that way.
I think his problem is that he can run really fast, easily. That's why he's a Mary Sue, I guess.
Handsome beloved. Beast Boy actually looks like a gangly fucking awkward nerd, and
he's an adolescent.
Yeah. Beast Boy's a teenager, hence the name Teen Titans.
Effectively, he can transform his body into whatever. So, what's the problem? Like what?
The only reason, and he just said that the Flash is a Mary Sue because he easily runs, and that he's really handsome. Well, in story, and this is in canon, in the Teen Titans show, Robin is incredibly handsome, and we know this because Starfire's in love with him. He has a lot of fangirls in series, and there's a whole plot point about a villainess falling in love with him and wanting him to be her boyfriend, take her to dances and stuff. So Robin, for some reason, him being muscular and handsome and incredibly skilled and easily able to fight off villains that are stronger and bigger and tougher than he is, that doesn't make him a Mary Sue because he's the same flaws as Batman. But Batman is a Mary Sue.
Yeah. I hate going through because there's so many iterations of these characters, and
maybe he should have done this in like an edited video where he can his thoughts.
Give examples, sir. Like if he would have given an example of Beast Boy being proper and the Flash not, then we could point and read those comics and go, "Oh, okay, I see what you're saying." He might have a point there.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not saying I'm right. That's not the point of my video. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm definitively right. I'm just saying that this is an argument I'm making.
And again, this is all off to the side of the actual point made in the video. Okay, guys? We're all just wasting time for 10 minutes.
About a point that he missed. That he did not understand, despite me spelling it out.
Yeah.
And like his spazziness legitimately gets him into like awkward social conflicts with other people.
So does the Flash.
People hate the Flash. I mean, they don't hate him, as far as I've seen. And I've watched Justice League and everything. But people get annoyed with the Flash because he's that jokester. He's this guy who's very spastic. He just jokes when people want him to be serious. Like he annoys people with that same trait, just like Beast Boy does. But for some reason, again, one is a Mary Sue, the other one isn't, even though by his own words, they have exactly the same traits or very similar traits.
I mean, I guess if the Flash was a female, he'd be okay. I'm assuming.
I mean, you think he'd like the Flash? I mean, the Flash is red, right?
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, he's super fucking insecure too. If anything, Tara was more of a fucking Mary Sue until she revealed that she was a fucking lunatic and went.
Tara is a Mary Sue in the show. She immediately comes on. She's like better than everyone else. Everyone instantly loves her. Everything bends to her will. She is pretty much single-handedly responsible to beating out all the team, outsmarting even Robin, outpowering even Starfire and Raven. I mean, she's a Mary Sue. And even when she is defeated, okay, even when she's defeated after she is responsible for the Slade's takeover of the city, even after she is defeated, the Teen Titans mourn her. Her loss is tragic. Now, what happens in the Trekkie's tale? Everyone loves her. She is immediately accepted by everyone into the group, into the inner circle, and her death is tragic.
That's
Tara is a Mary Sue.
That's pretty close to the original Mary Sue's tale.
So we agree. Okay, we agree with this guy. Tara, as she's portrayed in the Teen Titans show as a Mary Sue, I hated Tara for that. She's not an interesting character to me. I loved it when she died. Get out of here. And I really hated it when they brought her back for that last episode when she came back as a schoolgirl or whatever. It's like, don't do this.
That sounds like, that's comic book 101, right?
Yeah, she comes back, but I mean, she wasn't Mary Sue, and I just liked every second of her on screen. Yeah, so we agree.
When all
Tara's a Mary Sue.
magic on the world. You'd like Young Justice? I don't give a fuck. Listen, the point that I'm getting at here.
Did he just get triggered by his audience?
I don't care. Leave me alone. Stop making so many points.
Oh man, this is great. Yeah.
Listen, okay, watch this, all right? 800 IQ Vaush, bringing all of the disparate character threads
What are you doing, man?
together into my one gigantic big brain, okay? Are you ready for the fucking 5 head takes, all right? I have led all of you on a ruse cruise, you see. We're not just talking about this so that I can school you in your dumb fuck takes and misconceptions.
Oh, you know what? If he would just stop swearing at his audience, I'd probably respect him a bit more. But every time he does
He just
that,
get triggered by his audience again.
would you leave the guys alone? They have the gall to sit there and take this crap and try to impart some knowledge. You're like swearing at them half the time.
Even his audience is like, dude, you're wrong.
Hey, DC shills in the chat, boys. What? Guys that actually know DC telling him off. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, people who are larger DC fans than him dare to come in and school him on DC. That's a big no-no. You can't come into my house and start telling me
all
what
he's
to do.
all he's saying is, yeah, you might like this show. Fuck off! Like, what the?
No, you won't like the show. Like, why did he do that? It's like, okay, thanks. That's cool. I'll check it out. People recommend me things all the time, and I want to go look at them. I appreciate them offering me pointing me in the direction of things they think I'd like. I don't tell them to go screw off or anything.
It's not like saying, you know what you'd really like? Getting shot in the head. It's like, oh, okay, that's not very nice. Here's some ice cream. It's strawberry. Oh, I love strawberry. Thanks.
Of course, I think this is probably the reason why ever since this video came out, I've gotten like maybe 80 more dislikes and almost 200 more likes.
Yeah. That happens. I know. It's weird. Someone discovers your video and they get like 200 more views out of like 10 minutes. You're like, what? Where did that come from?
What we're also doing is explaining the many, many ways in which reactionaries, when they talk about characters being too SJW, massively fucking distort the meaning of these terms so that they can specifically ascribe the term Mary Sue to characters that they don't like. So
Okay,
How did I distort the term if I spend 6 minutes defining the term?
Who is doing this? Like, you made one video. There are other people saying, you know what, SJWs and Mary Sues are very alike. It's like, dude, no, there's one video. That's all there is. I haven't seen anything else like that.
I spend 6 minutes defining the term. And somehow I'm distorting the term.
If there was another video out there, I wish we could view it together. I'm sure you would love to watch it, of the observations of someone else connecting the dots between SJWs and Mary Sues. Mm-hmm. I think you would be impressed because you know the topic. Great. I've never seen another topic like this before. What is he talking about?
I have no idea.
But
I think
apparently
it's a-
other reactionaries do this all the time. Like, okay.
You know, I planned out that video. It took me a while to do it. That wasn't reactionary. I just explored an idea and a common phenomenon that has taken place in multiple stages of media. This guy is literally watching my video right off the take and doing it on a live stream. I would argue that is far more, infinitely so, more reactionary than my video.
Yeah, I think if he wants to talk about reactionaries, he should actually not do one take.
It should not be a reactionary.
He should not do a reaction video. It's the thing.
I mean, there's nothing bad with reactionaries. I mean, this is us
Yeah,
reacting
but
to this video.
he's attacking you as a reactionary by reacting. It's like, what are you doing? Stop that. This is not how you react to things. This is how you react. It's like, really?
Let me school you on how to react to
Yeah,
things
it's like,
properly.
okay. Not good form, sir.
If you're any definition that makes Ray a Mary Sue is going to rope in half of the DC extended universe.
Oh, man.
What does
you just said that.
What does that have to do with?
How? Tell me how. You're wrong about everything so far. So how?
You know, when you start talking about Ray, you better bring up Superman, or else it's not going to make any sense. Like, you just can't do that. It's like, why?
I did bring up Superman. I said, okay, people might see Superman as a Mary Sue because a lot of people see him as a Mary Sue on the colloquial definition of one, which is why I point out the colloquial definition of Mary Sue pretty much right off the bat. And then I go over Superman and say, okay, yeah, he's loved by all these people. He kind of fits the definition of Mary Sue, doesn't he? But here's why he isn't. And I say X, Y, and Z. This guy says no, he's a Mary Sue because he's boring and he has muscles.
Oh, believe me, it gets worse. It gets really bad. We're only 25 minutes in. It gets much worse. We can stop now if you like. If you guys want to go, we can go for another 10, 20 minutes. How's that? You okay?
Everyone good?
Everyone okay? All right, some people are taking off. It's like, ugh. I think I'm going to have a good night now. Okay, good idea. I think I have a life to get back to.
Yeah, so let's just continue.
Okay, let's keep going for another 5, 10 minutes.
5-10 minutes.
Universe fucking superhero cast as well. Like any definition. Everything that
Any definition. We just gave you one and you didn't like it, so I don't know how we're ever going to appease you, sir.
Like, I dismiss your reality and substitute my own. It's basically what he's arguing. He's like, I don't like your reality, the one that you're presenting in this video, so I'm going to replace that with a reality I want you to have taken.
Yeah,
So in my reality, you said all power fantasies are Mary Sue.
there are dozens of flavors of Mary Sue, and there's probably 24 versions of properties that Mary Sue's have. So one of them has to connect, and obviously he wrote his own down. So we have to connect on some level here. We can't all be opposites. It's a basket term. We're all in the basket together. Just pick one.
Because his own term of Mary Sue is narratively correct.
Yeah, but I don't like. Come on, like
I have no idea.
How
I have
the
no idea what that
hell are you
means.
going to make sense of that?
It's his own term that he made up so he can be right.
Narratively correct. She walked properly across the hallway. Like, what?
Narratively correct.
She solved the plot conflict with herself. It's like, what?
that I'm talking about here applies more to the characters that I'm discussing now than it does to the characters that reactionaries will rope in when they're trying to talk about how SJWs are ruining media.
We are talking about Ray. We are talking about Superman. We are talking about what are you talking about, man? Just give us an example, please.
Like, I addressed Superman for this specific reason. Because he's not a Mary Sue.
We want to relate to the audience. LiteratureDevil gave us examples we can concretely understand. You, sir, are talking in generals. Give us.
They're always upset that about me daring to critique their beloved Disney's operated waifu. When I have Ray's not the only example I give of a Mary Sue. Okay, I have several in there.
We get there. It's
least 3.
It's fun. He just keeps plowing ahead. It's great. It's amazing.
You want to ignore that?
Oh, it's like he just keeps going. It's amazing.
By making black people and women perfect and flawless, and all white men are subservient to their genius and narrative prowess.
Please give us an example. Whatever the hell you're talking about. What is he going?
That does happen. That is a narrative thing that happens these days. in woke media. That's why it's a pattern that everyone can relate to.
I know, but can he just say the example of that? I could. The obvious answer is Black Panther, right? The black. What do you call it? Ethno state of amazing technology, what have you? Great.
Oddly enough, Black Panther was pretty much Republican. I mean, they're isolationist. They're kind of like they want to keep out foreigners, that sort of thing. I'm not saying Republicans want to keep out foreigners, but they want to keep out people who are coming in illegally and all that stuff. So I mean, they are pretty right wing, essentially, like especially according to his views. So I don't think, as far as I've seen, Black Panther is a Mary Sue. His sister probably is the one who's just automatically smarter than all the scientists ever. And that I think Marvel has officially come out and saying that she's the smartest person in the entire MCU.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
okay, yeah. So she's a Mary Sue.
Like she's
Black
smarter than
Panther-
Tony Stark? Really? Holy crap.
Yeah, they said that. That's an official statement. It's kind of like J.K. Rowling it, where it's not really present in the media. They present it, but it's just something they wanted to point out.
Oh, yeah, they're totally homosexual. I mean, bisexual. I mean, yeah, they're.
By the way, what's his name? Dumbledore is gay. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, of
Where's
course,
that in the book?
yeah,
Well,
totally.
it's not really in the book, but he is.
Okay? That's what I'm trying to do here. All right? That's what they're trying to do.
What are you trying to do, sir? What,
Trying to prove that I'm a reactionary? Trying to prove that
well, I thought it had to do with Mary Sue's and SJWs, and you're trying to draw the
I'm
connection
just
between
not,
the two.
One thing that the SJWs always try to do is try to convince you that SJWs don't exist. And it's all in your head.
Really?
It's all you're just making it up. You're just a bigot. That's why you think SJWs exist. That's one of the tactics that they use, and I've gotten like at least 1,000 comments
I know
around that argument.
I know they try and demonize you, so I could see his emotional reaction to just not liking you, just in that mental state. You're like, okay, this guy's bad, therefore I have to react as such.
Yeah, I'm already been canceled in his mind.
Oh yeah.
So I'm already the bad guy. I'm already the evil person, and whatever I say has to be wrong.
You see, that would really help if he would argue and have points, as opposed to saying, "Well, this is what they do. This is their playbook." It's like he's trying to draw the connection between Mary Sue's and SJWs. That's the whole point of his video. Can we stay on track, please, sir? That's all we want to do. But okay, he framed you as this reactionary fellow. Let's see what he has to say about you.
The difference is they're failing and I'm successful.
Oh my God! Oh my God! You fail. You just do. You just
What?
fail.
I fail. I'm successful.
He's successful. We don't know how he's successful. He just is. That's how it's done. you gotta watch his more videos, man. He does it the right way. One hot take, grow your hair out the top of your head, and gesticulate and attack the air when you're trying to simulate people playing video games or whatever the hell that was.
Andrew Clark, have some rhino milk on me, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. I think we need a shot of something at this point. But
I've been drinking
Yeah.
this whole time.
we're gonna 5 minutes more, guys. Then we're gonna stop. Okay,
Yeah, we'll have a part 2 at some point.
or 3 or 4 if we can get through this tomorrow. I don't know. Whatever.
Because big brain. Oh,
Yes, you are big brain man, and we are little brain men. Okay.
Yeah, big brain is like, oh, you're more arrogant and you think you're smarter
Yeah.
than you are.
Who was it last time? Lava-chan was like this video editing god.
Yeah, he said my editing was lazy.
And this guy is a comic book guru
comic book guru.
with the 800 IQ. Okay.
I knew that was a joke, but he's just coming.
Yeah, but if you're gonna make
HCC.
at least be somewhere in the ballpark, so we can.
also because I don't fucking run my YouTube channel using an edgy black masked suit man as an
Yes, attack the avatar more, sir.
What's wrong with black? What's wrong with people who are black? Huh?
It's
Mr.
edgy.
Progressive?
It's so.
He has a problem. He has a problem with black people.
He's racist.
He doesn't like white people. He doesn't like white men. That we've seen that clearly. He's like, he's clearly like saying that these characters are white as a bad thing. Now he doesn't like black people.
See, now you have to be striped. You have to have like black and white stripes. You have to be more inclusive for your whiteness, sir.
It'd be perfect if he thinks just automatically thinks I'm white, because according to progressive values, I'm not.
Gotta get some more ethnic distinction on your suit, which is designed to be conformed. The whole point of like military suits and business suits so that everyone's equal. No. You have to give it some flair or something. I don't know. Attack the image. Yes, attack the image.
They just hate suits. They hate suits to
I don't get it.
to a boggling degree.
They look good. Suits are good. Guys, go out yourself, get a suit. Doesn't matter for what reason, just get a suit. Cheaper than renting. It'll last you forever.
Avatar.
And each reason an author has for making their Mary Sue creates a nasty little subspecies.
What is he doing? He's gesticulating again. I don't know.
I guess he really likes the music I chose, which I agree with because I'm the one who chose it. But people are just trying to say like, oh yeah, this music's all cringy and stuff. Well, people have said that. They maybe don't like it, but I do. And it's my channel. So
Too bad.
I put what I want on my channel, okay?
Like the copycat suit, where the author creates their own original character by giving them the same abilities and similar origin story as their favorite character in their favorite series, except even better. And probably female. Strange how that works. Anyway, they'll make these characters even if it doesn't make any sense.
Even better, but female? That's kind of... What?
It means that it's even better and female.
Yeah, even better. It's basically I said the copycat suit is a copy of the author's favorite character, but probably better in a female version of it. And that's true. I mean, that's if you look at most of these author inserts / Mary Sues, even if they're written by male authors, they're usually female. It's been speculated that the reason for this is because people view women as weaker or more vulnerable, and they want a weaker, more vulnerable premise to work off of, so that it can be juxtapositioned as when she comes out with all these powers and crazy talents.
Yeah, that's generally how these characters work and operate. They have these powers that come out of nowhere. No explanation. Or if the explanation is unbelievable, it's just the same thing. It's still unbelievable characters. It doesn't matter exactly what their power level is. In relation to what they do, it doesn't make sense. It's very simple to understand this concept.
I can't wait to see him get triggered off of the fact that I dared to use the word female in a not a praising context.
Ooh, that's true.
Listen, I don't know what we're talking about here. I've seen plenty of cringy fanfic self-insert OCs being made by men and women, but okay.
It's sort of like...
Wait, why does that pertain to the point I just made?
The characters are female, usually.
Yeah.
Not the writers.
I guess he wasn't listening. He was too busy getting his, I don't know, his coffee or something. But what I just said was copycat Sue, which is usually a copy of the author's favorite character, but even better and probably female. You weren't listening again, good sir. Again, you weren't listening. And you just made a comment on a point that I didn't even make. I mean, listen to the video instead of looking for things to get outraged by, and you'll probably have better arguments.
Writing an Avatar The Last Airbender fanfic and making your original character...
Hey! That's another character who's kind of a Mary Sue, huh?
Okay, Andrew Clark, what do you guys think of Rey's red lightsaber? It's dumb. It's really stupid. It reminds me of like a pair of novelty Star Wars chopsticks.
It's
you get like
it's very impractical. If you have that sort of weapon and it has a hinge to it, that's an accident waiting, especially with something as deadly as a lightsaber. It's kind of dangerous. Like when you look at other double-bladed lightsabers, they're all stiff. They're all straight. There's no moving parts. So if you have a weapon that can cut through skin instantly, you don't or bone or human flesh, you don't want it moving on you accidentally. Like you imagine a fight between two Force users, and the guy realizes your lightsaber has a hinge. This is not a safe weapon to use. Maybe if it was like a tri-staff or a bi-staff, like that might make more sense. But it's still dangerous to have a hinge, a moving part.
Even Mark Hamill made fun of that lightsaber.
Yeah,
he retweeted like a thing where she's using the lightsaber and it comes out like a lightsaber Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Even Mark Hamill made fun of that thing. It's just completely stupid. So that's what I think about it.
I remember when what's his name, when Darth Maul released he had his lightsaber and he pulled it out, and the second one came out and I was like, oh my god, like that was cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Because it was all right. Here's a traditional lightsaber, one blade, and then the second blade came out. That was cool because it was different. That was a Darth Maul
Right.
lightsaber.
Now the problem is because these things are super deadly, and to wield a dual-bladed lightsaber is really hard, and it's a big sticking point in KOTOR. Not everyone can do it, and people think, well, because Rey had a staff, therefore she can do that. It's like, well, it is similar to a staff, but imagine a halberd with two ends of it have it being sharp, but being much smaller, and the halberd part being much bigger. You effectively have a dual-bladed spear that you can't touch and you can't wield as a staff. It's really complicated to use a weapon like that, and especially I don't think they understood the complexities of that. And unfortunately, KOTOR came out after the Phantom Menace, so it's like if you would understand, like in choreography of this weapon, like how many times the stuntman or the guy who played Darth Maul, who was the stuntman, actually touched the thing. It's so impractical as a weapon because lightsabers are so deadly. So
that's why I think Rey wielding a lightsaber in the first movie and then not cutting herself or anything like that, and then beating Kylo was horrible. Was a complete and utter watering down of lightsaber combat.
Even with Finn wielding the light, that was even worse.
Yeah, because I'd always speculated that anyone wielding a lightsaber without much training would probably kill themselves with it. It's the only reason why I think that Jedis were so able to use it is because they had training and use of the Force, where they were able to not chop their own head off.
It was a form of discipline that people who were attuned with the physical world in their bodies and actually practice. Like when you saw that scene with the Phantom, was it the Phantom Menace or the second? I think it was the second movie, where all the kids, they're like 4 or 5 years old, they're really tiny.
I believe it's the second movie.
They have like baby lightsabers, and I'm like, what? Are you serious?
I mean, there's a lot of problems with the prequel.
There are so many. Yeah, but that was like, this is insane. And they have the helmets on.
Why would you give a kid that? It's worse than giving a kid a knife.
And they're standing so close together, and they're trying to deflect bolts. So you're like, are you guys nuts?
If a kid tries to touch one of those blades, his finger is gone.
If he tries to dodge a blade, he kills the guy in front of him. It's like, what the hell?
There are no second chances with these things.
No.
You mess up once, it's done. It's over. You don't get your hand back. You don't get your fingers back.
So lightsabers are one of those things that are very special and very deadly, and to see it have, like, there are like lightsaber whips in the comics and some of the EU characters. Exar Kun had a small dual-bladed lightsaber, but both blades were retractable at different sizes and lengths. So there was a whole story behind that. So there's practical ways to do it. I think in one of the animations they also had something where it rotates around a pivot point, like a shield, which is kind of crazy. But it's still like, okay, I guess that's, if you trained in that, it makes sense. How did Rey train in that?
She didn't. She just picked one up and was instantly at least okay to good at it.
There's a time skip of 1 year, we know that, but is that enough? I have no idea. Who would teach her? No one. No one's alive.
Yeah, she didn't have a mentor. It's something every hero in a hero's journey needs, is a mentor. It's part of the journey. You get a mentor.
All right, we're straying from our topic. Do you guys want to end it right now? We'll jump tomorrow.
We'll go ahead and end it right here. I guess we can end it right here. I don't mind that.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. When's our next time we're going to do? Is it tomorrow's a good day? Is it going to be the weekend? What do you feel like?
What time tomorrow, if you can do it tomorrow? Like afternoon?
If I can make it early from work, probably the same time as today. Probably the best for me. Is that too late for you?
No, I can do it. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, great. Tomorrow. So we've gone through 26 and 35 seconds of this video. We've got a lot more to go, and hopefully we won't react too hard, as our reactionary nature is likely to cause us to have emotional reactions to problems.
I kind of want a compilation of this guy getting triggered by his own audience because he does it so much, and it's only 25 minutes in.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of sad. I don't want to. I'm
Hey,
sure
some meeting you might like. Well, screw off.
Yeah, it's just arguing with other people on your own streams. Yeah. It's kind of weird.
I couldn't imagine reacting that way. I couldn't imagine reacting that way.
It's unprofessional. It's not polite.
I guess the people disagreeing with him in his chat was just too much for him to handle. Because he's so set.
Believe me, it gets better. So it's
that's just fantastic. I'm going to save the rest of my.
Yeah, don't spoil anything for this gentleman on Twitter. Just do not watch. Don't tell him what's going on. It's amazing. So thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Good night, everyone.